Yeah.
Okay, I think we can go ahead and get started. It is 12:30, and my goal, of course, is to be out of here by 5:30 today, like Crystal said. Just kidding. For those of you who've had me in class before, I feel bad for you. So I see Dana and Amanda. Oh man, here we go. We'll see how we do. Our goal, of course, is to be done by 4:30, and as a general rule, I'm pretty close to that. But of course, we want to get started on time. So today we've got a lot to do, a lot of new faces in the program, and I'm excited about that. I know we're missing at least one person today, but we'll be recording the video for him. So this morning, or this afternoon, I guess it is already, these are the things that we're going to be doing. I apologize if you can't see this at home. We'll spend a little time on introductions, so we'll introduce each other to each other. I realize some of you had class together this morning, so that might be a little redundant, but it certainly won't be for me, and it won't be for everyone in this class. Today we'll spend a good chunk of the time going through the syllabus, so you understand the expectations for the course, how you're graded, those kind of things. And then, of course, the course requirements. What is it that you're expected to complete over the course of the semester, and when you need to have it done by, etc. That'll take most of the day. Before our first break, we're going to sign up for some groups that will have group presentations. Will be one of your assignments in here. And after we do that, before we leave today, you'll have some time in a group to work. So you can kind of collaborate and figure out how you want to tackle that group assignment. And in between there, I have a presentation on leading with integrity. This course is all about leadership. Our focus is, of course, on school improvement, but it's just also on leadership in general. And this is your kind of introduction to the program for most of you. And this program is designed to build people who are prepared to be leaders in schools. And that's, of course, what we want from you. Today, we focus on the nuts and bolts for this class. Notice that I don't focus on the nuts and bolts for the program itself. The next meeting for this class, September 21st, starting at 12:30, probably for about 2 hours, will be the program orientation. I don't do it today for a couple reasons. First, we're limited to a semester for this class, and there's a lot of work for you to do. And if we spend 2 hours today on the program orientation and we don't get to everything that's due for this class, you leave today, really about a month behind because you have to get things started to be done by December. So I want to make sure you're comfortable with everything that needs to be done for this class today. Second is we get adds and drops in the program. Some of you might, start today and go, oh man, this isn't for me, that Dr. Pratt, I can't work with that man. And you might decide, you know what, I'll just have to trust the program. I had one person, and I see he's not here today, he added the program yesterday. We got him enrolled. So because of a financial aid situation with another person, we had one spot open up. And so we were able to get one person in yesterday. I was kind of expecting him to be here, but nonetheless, we'll move forward. We limited our enrollment this year to 20, and you'll say, well, there's not 20 in here. That's true. And that 20 enrollment limit was from last summer and now. So there are some students who started in the summer who might not be in this course. And the reason for that is if you're getting a master's or a specialist degree, you have a set number of credits that you need to complete, and it's typically in about a 2-year time frame. It's either 33 or 36 credits. Some people don't have that. They're getting their postmaster's certificate. What that means is they already have a master's or a specialist, or in some case a doctorate degree, several cases a doctorate degree, and those people are coming back only to get their administrator's license in the state of Tennessee. Their program can be anywhere from 12 to 27 credits, which means they only have to take the classes they already haven't had in their master's degree. So they'll be in some classes, for example, I think Michael Crascio, for those of you who were in 5730 this morning, he was in that class. There's a guy with his doctorate. I think he needs to take 12 or 15 credits to get his certificate, but he didn't need to take this class. So at any rate, we limited our enrollment this year between summer and fall to 20, which is the first time we've had to draw a line. Last year we didn't, and we ended up with 25 new students, and it frankly got to be a little unwieldy. So this year we wanted to draw that line at 20. So congratulations, you made it in. So good for you. And we clearly raised our bar because Amanda and Dana made it in last year, and that's why we had to raise the bar this year. So with that, of course, I'm kidding. I will say several things throughout the class because I think I'm funny, as my wife tells me. So I will do that. If I ever offend you or anything, don't hesitate to let me know. Of course, I never mean to do that. And also, if I'm ever going to show like anything on the screen or anything like that I might think could offend some people, I'll always try to let you know too. Pretty open, but I really don't aim to offend people. So if I am, shoot me an email and let me know. Or if you think something could be, always let me know. So I'll always avoid that if I can. So with that, today I have outlined what we're going to be doing. I mentioned that the first thing is going to be introductions. This is going to take some time, but that's okay. It's very important. If we didn't take the time, I wouldn't get to know you, you wouldn't get to know me, and then I wouldn't be able to make fun of you next year at this time. So I wouldn't know, like, for example, Dana's story. Let's see, Dana works in the Cleveland School District, right? And what?
At the brand new school.
At the brand new school. And I wouldn't know Amanda works at Wiltever, right? What, fourth? First grade. Okay, I knew that. Right. See, at least we'll know that much about you at this time next year. So that's exciting. What I would like to do for introductions, I've posted over there, and I realize people at home, you can't probably see that, but I'll at least try and make it so you can. What I would like to know is some things about you, as much as you'd like to share, but at least who you are, what you do, where you do it, for how long you've done that for. So that's your professional, I teach at Wiltever first grade. I've done that for how long, etc. If you want to share other things about you, whatever you're comfortable with. My hobbies are heavy drinking for Amanda, right? Or any other, things about you that you would like to share, your family, whatever. And also don't forget to tell us what program you're in. So are you in the master's degree with the ILLB, the principal's license? Are you in the specialist degree? Are you in the postmaster certificate program? Are you in the teacher leadership program? Okay. Then second, I ask you to share either 2 or 3, and you can think about this while I'm talking, but part of your assignment for today was your definition of leadership. Come on in, take a seat. We were just talking about you. Yep. I'll ask you to either A, share your definition of leadership that you developed for today, or B, you have your choice here. Share with us a leader who you would either like to emulate, who you admire, who you believe you can learn from. And I'll just preface this with, you can't use Jesus. So you can. I'm not saying you shouldn't. That didn't come out right. I'm not saying you shouldn't try to emulate Jesus. I'm saying we can't have 18 people say that I want to be a leader like Jesus.
Should I email you now?
Yeah, right. Dear Dr. Kipling, you are simply the most offensive instructor. But that's kind of my preface there. So I'll go ahead and start so you can learn a little bit about me, and then we'll go around the room. And I so apologize for people at home because you get these horrible shots of my stomach and whatnot. It's just ridiculous. I know. I went on that Whole30 thing in July, and I lost 10 pounds in July, but in August I've gained 8. So it hasn't really worked. I'm still net 2. It's not bad. I've only gained 60 pounds since I got married 2 years ago. That's the bad part right there. You get happy and then, anyway, I was in such good shape when I was miserable. But, at any rate, my name's Barry Kamrath, and I'm your instructor here at UTC. I'm the coordinator of the program at UTC. This is my 6th year. Really important year for me. This is the year that I go up for tenure at UTC, and tenure is really an important thing. A, because it results in a boost in your salary. UTC boosts your salary 10%, actually. If you move with tenure, you typically move from assistant professor, which is what I am now, that's the lowest rung, to associate professor. And when you do that, that comes with the 10% bump, and then you're tenured. So that's really important. And of course, a big part of that is the student evaluations for the courses, which is why about November, December, I'll start bringing in treats when it's time to start doing those evaluations. So anyway, it's my 6th year here at UTC. Prior to that, I was a teacher for 10 years in the great state of Wisconsin. And Dana and Amanda are already going like, no more Wisconsin. So I'm from the state of Wisconsin, grew up there, born and raised. And I taught, I was a band director, actually, high school for 4, middle school for 6 years, band director. And then in 2000, I became a principal of Bloomer Middle School in beautiful Bloomer, Wisconsin. And from 2000 until 2014, I was the principal at that school, middle school principal. So that's 24 years in public education. Started here in 2014. This is my 6th year, so I just hit my 30th year in public education. I know, hard to believe for a guy who's only 36, but it's true. Let's see. In 2009, I took my daughter and my 2 sons on a spring break vacation. We used to do this thing called geocaching. Heard of it? It was before cell phones became really, so capable. We used to have our little Garmin GPS things, and people, and I know it's still a thing, but people hide like trinkets of things, whatever, in different locations all across the world. And you log into a website and then you try and find, a lot of times the cache will be like an ammunition box or something like that. And you put you trade something. Like I would usually put something in from Wisconsin, whatever it is. Okay. So, at that point, my kids were, I forget how old, maybe 20 and 14 and 12 or something. And so we set a goal to do a geocache in all 50 states. We got to 13, but we set a goal to do a geocache in all 50 states. And in 2009, over spring break, we decided, you know what, let's go get 3 states. Let's get Georgia, Alabama, and Tennessee. I had never been to any of those 3 states except to drive through Georgia on my way to Disney World with the high school band, and it was 6 buses of band kids. But and so we flew into Atlanta, and we did a geocache. I forget where in Atlanta. Actually, I don't remember. I think we did one in Atlanta. Then we rented a car. We drove to Birmingham, Alabama. We visited the Civil Rights Museum. We visited the Schloss steel refinery place. It was very Schloss, yeah. We visited that. That was very interesting. We stayed in a horrible hotel, but we did a geocache there. Then we drove from Birmingham to Chattanooga. We did a geocache on Lookout Mountain. We did the Railroad Museum. I forget it. Anyway, I remember we walked around downtown by the aquarium and that, and then from there we went to Atlanta. We did a geocache actually on the way at Chickamauga Battlefield. So we got Georgia, so we got all 3 states, and then we flew home. And when I got home, I said, Chattanooga was the coolest city I've ever visited on vacation. I said, if I'm ever going to live anywhere else, it'll be Chattanooga, Tennessee. That's the only other place I'm ever going to live. So Fast forward a few years, I was principal, and if one needed doze off, take a nap, that's okay. I was a principal at Bloomer Middle School, and the school district was grooming me to become the next superintendent of school. So they're sending me to, I'm going to mute someone online just to make sure we don't hear you off anymore. Okay. Sorry. So the school district was growing me to become their next superintendent of schools, and I was excited. They were sending me to the finance meetings. They actually had me run the school district annual meeting in 2013. That summer, every district does an annual meeting for all the voters and everything, and they asked me to do that. And so I was getting prepped to be the superintendent. I finished my license and all that. And I was also teaching adjunct for University of Wisconsin Superior and Viterbo University on weekends, doing this with adult learners for their classes. And I was already to become the superintendent, and my oldest son, who's now 20, he turns 20, he was born in 95, so he turns 24 in a couple months. He said to me, Dad, when you start talking about becoming a superintendent, you seem very anxious, agitated, and just not, he said, you don't seem to smile a lot, you just seem anxious about it. He said, but when you come home from teaching on the weekends, you seem animated, excited, you start talking about what you want to do next, you talk all weekend about the interactions you had with your students, and he said, maybe you ought to consider a career change. And I was like, shut up. But, what do you know? But actually, I thought about it, and I realized he was right. And so I said, well, okay, let's just see if there's any jobs out there. So I opened up higheredjobs.com, and guess what job was number one? Can't even make this stuff up. University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. I said, all right, I get it. So I called and I talked to someone who since has left the university, but I said, I'd like to apply. She said, well, the deadline was Friday. It was like Monday. She said, but if you can get me your stuff by this Friday, we'll get you in the pool. And they flew me down and I interviewed, and the rest is history. So although you can't talk about Jesus as far as the leader you want to emulate, clearly I felt like he was saying, all right, this is what you're going to need to do for the rest of your life. So what I'm going to need you to do, he said, is take a $37,000 a year pay cut to become a college professor. And I was like, are you sure about that? Because that's a lot of money, Jesus. He was like, no, I really don't. Okay. So, which is why we get to part A of tenure being so important. To move up the pay scale. It was a pretty substantial pay cut. All right, that's enough about personal life. Let's see, I was divorced in 2014, but amicably, still talk with my ex-wife quite a bit. She's remarried, got married last year. I remarried 2 years ago to a lovely lady who lives in Marietta, Georgia, which I know I didn't plan that out very well, but I married her 2 years ago in August, so we just had our second anniversary. She has 2 daughters. One is 22, goes to school at Pace University in Manhattan for it's commercial dance is her major. Commercial dance, yes. I help her out a lot. And that was a joke. My second stepdaughter is 14. She just started as a freshman at Lassiter High School in Marietta, Georgia. Super nice school. I lived in Chattanooga until May of this year. I sold my house. I had a house out by Tyner Academy, Tyner High School, Tyner Middle School. I could throw a softball and hit Tyner Middle School. Sold my house even before I put it on the market. It sold so fast, it was ridiculous. And so now I commute from Marietta, Georgia, which, is a little bit of a drag, but it's the things we do for love, right? So yeah, all right, that's probably everything you need to know about me. Now we need to learn about you. Let's start with, our people at home, so that they feel welcomed to our class. We can start with Jennifer Baker. I'm going to unmute you. And Jennifer, if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about yourself and either your definition of leadership or a leader you would like to emulate.
Okay, my name is Jennifer Baker. If I had known that my face was going to be on that screen really big this whole time, I would have showered and put on real clothes today. I live in a small town in Crockett County, Tennessee called Alamo, and I teach second grade there. This is my 8th year teaching. My first year teaching second grade, I've taught everything from pre-K now up to second grade. I think I've changed grades every year for like the last 4 years. So it's a lot going on at school. My definition of leadership, have to read it here, is a person that is trustworthy, a person that can see the potential in others and has the ability to motivate and grow a team to be the best they can be individually and together to achieve a common goal.
Great. Anything else you'd like to share with us, Jennifer?
I have 2 children, aged 5 and 9. You'll probably see them pass by here at some point because they will not leave me alone for 4 hours. And that would be my daughters,
Okay.
Adeline and Georgia.
I'm kidding. Tell them that when they come through. Well, great. Welcome, Jennifer. Great to have you in class.
Thank you.
Going to go ahead and mute you, and we'll unmute Christy. If you would tell us a little about yourself.
My name is Christy Turner. I work for HCDE currently as a sub. I am coming off of being a stay-at-home homeschooling mom of almost 20 years and going back to work and pursuing my secondary education degree in the master's program and the post-bac certificate for leadership. I have 4 children. My oldest just got married, which is really cool. And my youngest is a sophomore at Sale Creek High School. I feel like I have to drive a long way to get down there. It's really not that bad. It's about 45 minutes. I live as close as you can get to Dayton without actually going into Ray County. So.
Okay. Well, and you said you're in the Postmaster's Certificate program?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. I'm going to mute you.
Oh, no, sorry, post-bac.
Oh, you're in the instructional coaching.
Yes.
Certificate. Gotcha. I should know this, but I
And my definition of leadership was really difficult. I talked to my family. We sat down and tried to come up with a good definition. Leadership is inspiring others to follow you while possessing the wisdom to know which path forward is right. But it's too difficult to put in one little saying that you can memorize. I think there's just too many facets.
Right. But you can take parts of that and certainly make like a credo or a motto or something like that.
Right.
Which I found interesting, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on your definitions right now, but so far of the 2 definitions we've had, they've both really focused on positive leadership, which, of course, being the antagonist that I am, I would also throw out there that there are a lot of really strong leaders, or there have been, who are not positive leaders, who maybe don't inspire others. I mean, I can think of, of course, the easiest one is Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler had a lot of followers, led people, through quite a bit. Probably not a very positive person. Probably, I'm sure he inspired some people, but obviously didn't inspire some people too. So that's something we'll talk about when we get into our definition a little bit more too. Does it have to always be for the forces of good? As one could argue, there are a lot of leaders who aren't necessarily. I think of, like, for those of you who are old enough to remember David Koresh, the Branch Davidians in Waco, Texas. Was able to lead people to do almost anything, but probably not necessarily for inspiring in a way to have them do good. So, and before I forget, Jennifer, what is your degree again? What program? Who's the hand behind you there touching the light switch? Okay.
I thought there's no peace around here.
Apparently not. What program are you in?
I'm in the master's licensure.
So getting your principal's license, gotcha.
Yes.
All right, well, welcome to Christy and Jennifer. All right, then why don't we, what I'm going to do for those of you at home, I'm going to come out here and I'll take the camera and kind of move it around. I got this new 30-foot USB cable so that I can, like, you know, so you wouldn't always have to be looking from so far away. So, all right, so let's come over here. And, all right, so now you get to see things like my nose and whatnot. We'll see how, right? Don't worry, you're not on the spot or anything. You're right on the spot. Okay, let's start here.
I'm John Stanford. I'm at Cleveland High School, a math teacher. I've been there for about 2.5 years. I was at Eastridge High School for about 2.5 years before that. I'm originally from Memphis. Taught at Hillcrest High School for a little bit there, and also taught at a private school called Bowie. I never heard of. My hobbies, I like to garden. I have a big garden with giant zucchinis growing out of it, and butternut squash that I didn't plan on growing, but it grew out of my compost pile. And I like to spend time outdoors and play guitar. I don't have any kids, but I am married. My wife is Liz. She's from here, so we met in Memphis, and she brought me to the other side of the state. What else? I'm in the program for principal's licensure, and then I'm going to continue and get my doctorate eventually.
So are you in the master's program or the postmaster's certificate? Do you already have your master's or are you getting a master's?
I have a master's already.
So you're getting a postmaster's certificate. Gotcha. Okay. And your choice, a leader or your definition?
My definition of a leader was somebody with vision, and somebody was able to take that vision and to carry it forward, to lead people towards that vision, and to convince people to also carry that vision, and therefore lead other people to the vision that they have. And the definition I thought it was from my principal, Autumn O'Brien at Cleveland High School. I really do think that she is a person that has that type of vision. And whenever we have meetings and interact, I feel like she's always hitting the core points that she wants everybody to achieve, and constantly getting that vision across, which goes across to the students. And I feel like we have a pretty good school culture there. And I think it's kind of, a lot of it has to do with her personal vision that she also has created with us.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. You know, as I was coming to work today, I was thinking to myself, if we should have a discussion about charisma also, because I wonder if in schools sometimes leadership and followership, if charisma doesn't come into play with that, because a lot of times we tend to follow a more charismatic person. But anyway, welcome to class. Great to have you, John.
Mm-hmm.
No relation to Amanda, who I discovered, even though it's the same last name. Gotcha. All right.
I'm Vanessa Moss. I teach at the Graduation Success Program, which is Hamilton County's solution to the adult high school, Hamilton County High School closing. So it's the first year that it's been open. Only had it for a few weeks. There's rolling enrollment, different class. Like I have juniors, I have seniors, I have second year seniors. And they're just coming in all at different times.
Seniors, right?
I teach English, so let's see what else is there. So I've been doing that for 3 weeks, and then before that I was at the Mechatronics Academy at Volkswagen for 2 years, and then before that I was at Central High School since 2005, and I have 2 boys, so 9 and 7. They both go to Battle, just down the road, because I live in Highland Park. I rode a bike here.
Nice.
My youngest has Down syndrome, so that was exciting. One way to put it, right? So I wasn't expecting it to be as amazing as it is. Met so many cool people. I'm on a board of a nonprofit, and I think I am doing partly this principal licensure because I want to see change in how CDC classes and inclusion and all that needs to happen. So let's see, I'll do my definition of leadership. Utilizing individuals' talents toward a shared goal with evidence-based decisions and an environment of respect in order to prepare, not react, and to inspire change, not status quo.
Huh.
And I came up with that while I was reading Watership Down, which is a book about bunnies going on an adventure. It's my favorite.
Fun. Well, who doesn't love bunnies? And which program did you say you were in, Vanessa?
The principal licensure, the
With the master's?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. All right, well, welcome.
I'm Kiara Brown. I am originally from Birmingham, Alabama. I graduated from Alabama A&M University in Huntsville, Alabama of December 2018. Started teaching at Howard as a 9th grade Algebra 1, 10th grade geometry teacher in January. So this is my official first year of school. My hobbies, let's see. I used to swim competitive, so I teach swim lessons on the side. And I was also assigned as the head girls track coach at Howard. So I'm really excited to see what that's going to be like in grad school.
Yeah.
Only one time, but I feel like I can manage it. I'm a part of the master's program for teacher leadership for now. My goal is to convert over to principal leadership once I get my 3 years in. A leader that I admired was my high school. I had a lot of them, but my high school principal, her name was Dr. Nettles. She really just came into my high school maybe sophomore year, and she really just continued to turn the school around from what it already was. My school was really high on academics and athletics, and she pushed it even more, like to exceed it really high in the state of Alabama and stuff. And she was not only just a principal to me, she was a mentor. Like I can still call her now and ask her for advice and just support her, not just on the professional level, but on a personal level as well. So I think the definition of a leader is to be sure to see somebody on that personal standpoint as much as possible.
Yeah,
so.
Definitely. We have a few people in the program at Howard. Ashley Cox, I don't know if you've met her.
I talked to her a lot.
Okay. Dr. Renaison, actually, one of your assistant principals, is finishing up
I didn't
this
know
year.
that, so yeah.
I'm trying to think. Is Jessica Hubbock still at
Yeah,
Howard?
she's there.
She's a graduate of the program. So, yeah, great. Well, welcome. And it's Kiara.
Kiara.
Kiara, not Kiara. Gotcha, Kiara. All right, not to put you on the spot, but guess who's on the spot?
My name is Mackenzie Brown. I graduated from UTC in May of 2018. I have not.
Nice and loud. Can you hear her at home? I want to make sure you can.
I have not taught yet. I took a graduate assistantship at UTC to make the whole thing more affordable. Kind of let that decide. A lot of professors like, you can't be a master's something you haven't done. Don't go right into the master's degree, but I did. And my degree is in reading specialist, and
Awesome.
so it's not. I don't know if I'm. This is a required course for that degree, but it's not. I don't think a part of the program. And I do want to be a principal eventually, so I plan to pursue a PhD after teaching for about 5-10 years. So it's good to kind of get an insight into what that would be like.
Right.
I graduate assistantships in the Center for Community Career Education. There's a lot of really great education-related federal programs that go through there. One of them is the Each One Reach One program. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but it's where we try to recruit minority teachers to come just get high quality teachers in high need areas, both content wise and as far as like Title I schools and stuff. And I might not have taught yet, but I took 10 praxis exams. I added a lot of endorsements on, so I am an expert on how to get licensed. So I kind of mentor those people through that and make sure that they graduate and are able to be high quality teachers. Another one is the College Knowledge Now program, which is where we have elementary schools, usually 5th graders, come and tour UTC, teach them all about financial aid. And so those of you, I know that some people in the last class said they were school counselors. If you don't already know about that, it'd be great to have you come through. But the hobby, I started a lacrosse team at UTC.
Really?
Yeah, clubs team. I'm trying to step back from it, but they keep texting me because I'm busy. I'm like, do it yourself. But no, there's that. And I work at FoodWorks on the side as well, which I go there after this, which is why I'm in the uniform.
Was that like down in North Chad?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that a restaurant? Or
it is.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Anything about leadership you'd like to share?
Yeah, my definition of leadership was the process of influencing individuals to both recognize and use their respective strengths in a collaborative effort to achieve a shared goal.
So you included a collaborative effort. Awesome. We'll talk about that throughout the program for sure. All right. Look at you and your UTC duds. That's nice. UTC mom. Excellent.
Hi, my name is Josie White, and I'm originally from Columbia, South Carolina. I moved here about almost 3 years now when I got married, and we met in Columbia, my home. And he's from Memphis. and we share 5 children total together because we are older people. So I have a son and daughter, 33 and one will be 27. And we have just got a puppy. So we're excited. His name is Bedford. He's my baby. He's 3 months old.
Fun.
It's a handful.
So what do you do now?
Thank you.
Yep.
I am at Cleveland High School, where I do instructional assistance. I go into classrooms where there are special needs for our SPED students, and I just make certain that they are meeting their requirements, and I'm just going overboard with them to assist them to get them on track and keeping them on track, because a lot of them, they go through a lot at home. So we just try to be there for them and just keep encouraging.
Right. Awesome.
My definition of leadership would be a person or a group of people within an organization. I feel that they should possess a specific trait that would cause them to be more open about what key essential things that we should expect from each other, such as being an achiever, empowering people, having a vision, having positive outlooks, and definitely having a team player attitude is very essential. So I feel that with these qualities, that would make your team more effective, so that you will always come out on top and you have the victory.
Nice. Well, great, Josie. Great to have you. They need support like you in Cleveland, because those kids, when they're growing up, they got like Dana and John, and then they're right, and then they're gonna need some. No, I'm kidding, of course. You know Jeremy Finch out there? Yeah, he finishes up in August with his specialist. So excited to have him do that. And I don't know if you know Kim Bradford or not. She's an instructional coach in Cleveland, but she finishes up too. Anyway, yeah. Well, great to have you.
Thank you.
All right. Talk nice and loud. I'll move the camera as far forward as I can.
My name is Sandra Talent. I teach at Bestie Shepherd. I'm just starting my 6th year, 2nd grade. Before that, we lived in Knoxville, and I taught in 2 schools in the Knoxville area for 16 years. So I have 3 children. One of them is 25 and lives in Memphis with her husband. The other one is 21, who is right now working to save money to go to school. And then I have a senior, a rising senior at Ooltewah, who is a big band person. He wants to also be a band director.
Nice.
So he's looking at UT Knoxville in Georgia
Okay.
as his possible
Right.
places. Our furry family, we have 7 cats and 3 dogs. So,
And what's your, do you go by Sandra or?
yes.
Okay. What's your major, Sandra?
I'm actually in the master's program for ESOL.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess this is a class that's it's required off of
Must
that
be.
list.
Okay.
So I don't really have a desire to be an administrator.
Right. Well, we didn't want you either, but so I'm kidding, of course. Okay.
So my definition of leadership is the ability to lead a group of people on a journey of improvement that strengthens the workplace, the community, and the team within.
Great to have you, Sandra. You know Ashley Ward out at Bestie?
Yes.
She's,
Yes. I'm her mentor.
You're her mentor?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
Great young lady. Yeah.
yes.
She's in her
Awesome.
2nd year in the program. So
She's excited.
yeah. Can we still hear at home? I'm gonna make sure if you can't hear at home, like wave your arms or something, so I can move this closer too. So all right, talk nice and loud if you
All
would,
right.
please.
I'm Courtney Talent, and I teach 8th grade math at GPS. And this is my 6th year there. I taught for 2 years in the Walker County school system before that. Hobbies, fairly obscure hobby. If you may not have heard of acro yoga, it's basically partner acrobatics. You see us strange circus folk in the park doing flips on people and handstands on people. Those are my people. So that keeps me busy. I teach that in the community.
Are those videos like we filter out at school? Because I feel like what you're describing, like,
I don't think so.
okay,
It's just like low-level Cirque du Soleil. Like,
okay.
just, yeah, keeps me busy. Teacher leadership is the program I'm in. And my definition of leadership was leadership is the art of inspiring and guiding a group toward a common goal by understanding problems, identifying solutions, and creating the conditions to get
Okay. We're gonna have so much fun with those definitions. Welcome, by the way. I'm trying to think of who I have at GPS. I had a Christine
there. Christine or Christine?
I thought Christine. I can't remember. I feel bad because usually I'm pretty good at that, but welcome anyway.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, okay. Amanda.
All right, I'm Amanda Stanford, and I teach first grade at Wolf Teeper Creek. This is my 6th year there. I have a 3.5-year-old little boy at home who keeps me very busy when I'm not working. He's been at the park with his dad all morning, and his dad finally could drag him home. So I just completed my instructional coaching certificate here at UTC, and then I'm working towards the master's and principal licensure. Let's see. I'm going to be different and pick a leader that I have looked up to since I started Hamilton County Schools, and she's retired but come back already, but it's Karen Hollis. Since I was a new teacher, she was in on observations because she was observing my principal doing the observations, and so I've just had interactions with her my entire time with Hamilton County Schools, and she always comes in and makes you, even though she is way at the central office, she never made me feel intimidated. She was so welcoming, and I felt like she always had the best interest in everyone at heart.
I would agree with that about Karen. Well, great to have you, Amanda. Talk nice and loud if you would.
Hi, I'm Adara Joyner, and I graduated from UTC with my undergrad degree in 2016. I started working for Hamilton County immediately after I graduated. I taught my first year at Orchard Knob Middle School. Then the next 2 years I was at East Ridge Middle School teaching 7th grade, and now I'm teaching 9th grade English, just basic English 9 and Future Ready Institute at Saudi Daisy High School, which is weird because that's where I graduated from high school, so now I'm in this weird time where we're turning as a teacher.
And have some of the colleagues, people you had as teachers?
Yes. Yes. That's been really cool, except for one teacher. Where I returned, and it was almost like a Jerry Seinfeld, Newman thing.
Oh.
But it's been cool since we started the school year. It wasn't me that was the bad kid. It was my guilt by association of my friends. So I'm in the master's program.
We heard that all the time as principals, by the way.
You can relate.
Yeah.
So I hobbies. I love to cook. If I'm having a stressful day, I'll go to the grocery store and get items to make something I've never made before. I just really love it. I'm a music person as well. I've played a drum set since I was in 5th grade. I have a music room at my house, and me and my boyfriend like to jam sometimes, so that keeps my neighbors up, not too frequently.
Right.
So my two things are kind of hand in hand. I think my definition of leadership will speak from who my mentor is. My mentor was the principal that I had year before last, Angie Cass. She's the principal at Ottawa High School. And she embodies what type of administrator I want to be in the future. She values relationships, but also sets really high expectations of her staff, but communicates that she knows that they can live up to her expectations. So I think that makes it a really good leader.
Yeah. She's come in and talked to the program a few times before. Yeah, absolutely. Well, welcome. Great to have you, Adara. Did I say it right, Adara or Adara?
Adara.
Adara. Okay. Can we maybe put this back there? Oh, that had to hurt. Right. Thank you. Just pass that back.
You may put.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay, I'm Dana Story, and I teach in Cleveland City Schools. I taught 6 years in Nashville, Metro Nashville schools, and then I moved to Cleveland, and I've taught there for 8. Got married and moved to Cleveland. Let's see. I am in the postmaster certificate. I had to take 27 hours, so I'm in it for the long haul. And let's see, hobbies. I'm at the stage of parenting where I'm like, what is a hobby? I have twin 2-year-olds. So what is a hobby? I'll get back to that one day maybe.
Right.
Right now my hobby is like how to potty train and Googling things that annoy me about 2-year-olds. Like how to fix that. Oh, we don't like that, but anyway, I do love them. But there's 2 of everything. Twice of everything. My definition of leadership. I wrote empowering others to achieve a goal while working to ensure they have the resources they need to succeed.
I've heard lots of the themes for our course will include things like power and change, and part of power is empowering. Influence, for example, is part of your definitions, which is great, because those are the major themes for this course. So awesome. Well, great to have you, Dana.
All right, I'm Morgan Dyer, and I've been teaching. This is my 4th full year. I've been at Calvin Donaldson before, teaching 1st and 2nd grade, and now I just moved to Clifton Hills. Let's see.
You just moved to Clifton.
Just moved to Clifton Hills, yeah, and I'm loving it so far. So let's see, my husband's also in the program. He's a year ahead of me, and so 3 books, which is really nice. And
yeah, but trust me, you don't want any of his work. Read the book, but don't copy anything.
And I'll go with the leader who's inspired me as a leader. My current principal was my first assistant principal, Lindsay Starnes. She was the AP at Donaldson, and I pretty much followed her to the hills because she's that amazing. She has created like a super family feeling in her school, functional family. And yeah, she just really puts relationship first, but I've also learned how to be a teacher through her.
Great.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll want to talk to her and see if she'd be willing to come in and talk.
That'd be cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Awesome. Of course, tell Lennon I'm kidding. Always quality work. So, all right.
Hi, my name is Sydney Russell. I teach 6th grade ELA at Hunter Middle School. This is my 2nd year there, 2nd year teaching. As I can tell from my family, I have 11 siblings and I have 6 dogs, 6 chihuahuas. So lots of fun in our household. And then my leader.
I'm sorry, you said Hunter Middle School?
Hunter Middle.
Where's Hunter Middle School?
In Ooltewah.
Okay.
So it's in between Brown and Ooltewah.
Okay.
And then the leader, I had this mentor, Melanie Commander, since 8th grade. So she's kind of been my mentor from middle school until now, and she's an administrator at East Ridge Elementary.
Okay. And what is it about her that you find inspiring?
She's very lighthearted about everything, and she's fostering relationships with both students and staff. And so with everything, she leads by example. She's never one to just, this is how it is, but let's talk about it. Let me show you, and we're going to do this.
And remind me, which program are you in?
I'm in the Master's Teacher Leadership.
Teacher Leadership. Perfect. Okay. Let's hand our camera over this way, however we want to do it. I wish there was a wireless way to do this. I'm trying to find a Bluetooth to a USB.
I'm Kayla Pesci. I am at DuPont Elementary School. I'm part-time math coach, part-time TOSA currently, and
TOSA, of course, for those of us who don't, I do, but
teacher on special assignment. So basically, I do administrative work half the time and get deal with discipline and things like that, which is nice because I am in the master's degree with principal licensure, and so it lets me kind of get my toes in the water without jumping all the way in at once. And so I did that last year. That was good. How long? This is my 11th year in education, my 3rd year at DuPont. My hobbies are kind of my children right now because I have a 3-year-old and a 3-month-old. So they keep me busy. And then let's see, my definition of leadership. I have the ability to lead others toward a goal through actions and to inspire and empower them to perform at their highest level of potential. I think that's covered all the things there.
All right, thank you.
And I'm Mark Lutgen. I've been teaching for 8 years, the last 6 years at Eastlake Academy. I teach 2 social studies blocks a day, and then instructional coach the rest of the day. As far as hobbies, I love to golf. I love to travel all summer if I can. I got 2 daughters. One is a junior here to be a math teacher. So I did my best to talk her out of that. But I'm making her get her BS degree in math, so she can do something else if she wants to. And then my other daughter I just dropped off to law school a couple of weeks ago in Cincinnati. So hopefully she'll get out of my pocket pretty soon. My program, I'm a teacher leadership master's. I have no desire to ever be a principal. I've lived that stressful life before. And then a leader I admire, I'm going to go a little bit outside the box from everybody else, I guess. I really admire Coach Carroll, Seattle's football coach. Of course, I'm a huge Seattle fan because that's where I'm from. But, I mean, he sets up a system, demands excellence, has fun, and is, you know, just a lot of energy and enthusiasm for what he does. And that's kind of how I lead my teams at school as well. So I really admire that, especially he's like 127 years old, I think. So to see him still doing that, I mean, that's great. So I figure if he can do it, I can get up and have that energy in the morning as well.
Was he at USC?
Yeah, we don't talk about that. He did some bad things there, but he was, yeah. There's no recruiting in the NFL, so he's fine.
Right.
Right. No violations.
Right, I just thought I would point that out.
Yeah. Poking holes in my theory already.
Right. No, well, great to have you. My favorite Pete Carroll thing, Google this sometime, is he used to have the boy who like came in and hung out at USC who was a blind child, and like he was like part of the program almost, and they did this special on NBC, and he came in and Pete Carroll goes, "All right, well, will you come back and see us?" And the boy's like, "Yes." And I was like, "Okay, no, he's not." I just feel like that was a really poor choice of word. I know that blind people use the word "see" or whatever, but it was just funny to me. Okay, nonetheless, okay. Well, going to see the Seattle Seahawks play the Falcons this year.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're season Falcons ticket holders. I'm not a Falcon fan, but I'm a football fan, and my wife is a Cowboys fan, and I'm a Packers fan. And it's cheaper to buy season tickets to see the Falcons and just go and see our teams when they come to town than it is to just pay to go and see our teams when they come to town, because those are such expensive tickets. So anyway, Mark, great to have you in class. You know, another thing you mentioned, I'll get off on lots of tangents, and Amanda and Dana know this, but so I have a son who wanted to be a math teacher also, and my ex-wife, his mother, just retired 2 years ago from being a math teacher for 33 years or whatever. And sadly, both she and I talked him out of it. Is that not sad that 2 career educators talked their child out of being a math teacher? Which is a sign of the times. But he just did an internship at a place in Milwaukee he went into actuarial science and statistics.
Yeah.
Kid made $29 an hour doing his internship. And they gave him a housing stipend, tickets to go and see the Brewers, and they've already offered him a job, and he starts at like $80,000.
Yeah, that's why I told her. I said, yeah. So you're not getting a BS, you get a BS in math and get certified. It takes an extra year, but then you're.
Is that not? I'm like, well, you could make $37,000. Let's do some math here.
Yes.
Anyway, sorry. Last but not least, we got the camera on you. Let's make sure our
little. Just
Okay.
my name is Audrey Pulse. I teach 3rd grade at Wallace A. Smith Elementary in Ottawa. Before that, I taught 2 years at Clifton Hills. I'm in the Master's of Education with Principal licensure. I like to work out, and I have merged my 2 things together, and I have a type program where I made a book of workouts for teachers to use in their classroom to wake up their brains instead of using Brain Pop and all that kind of stuff. Which Brain Pop, not Brain Pop, Go Noodle. Go Noodle's great, but also if you need something on the quick. and then I connected standards to it. So if you want one of those, it's free. I'll bring it to you.
I would love that.
Yeah, absolutely. And
As a principal in
Yeah.
my school, we used to like require that. It was like every
Yeah.
17 minutes you need to do something. to
Yeah.
get your kids out.
yeah, we have a lot of teachers who make their kids sit for the entire block of time, and I just personally don't understand that because there's a good chance I have ADHD and I've got to be going all the time. So if I'm like that, then I know my kids are like that, and they love it. They think it's so fun. We do a lot of fluency standards with it, which is really neat, and they look forward to it every day. So it's really neat. I'll bring you one if you want
Yeah,
it.
please.
I was gonna say Karen Hollis, so
okay.
but I'll say for a different reason. She came into my classroom when I worked in inner city, and inner city is really challenging when people are walking through your classrooms all the time and you don't always hear feedback. And she was really good about giving intentional feedback, and giving, like, having hard conversations with you, but still doing it in a constructive way, I guess, instead of doing it in a way that pulls you down and makes you feel like you're worse of a teacher. And then she also would do these little parables at the beginning of the school year. And I heard 3 of them and I never forgot one of them. And they always made me feel like I could conquer the school year at the beginning of the school year. And it was awesome.
I remember all this.
I remember all of them. I still have all the things. Yeah.
Pick them up.
Yeah, she'd always give you like a little like trinket to go with it. Yeah. I have all of them still.
That's very cool. I'm gonna grab that and you play along at home while you see lots of things we could figure it out. Uh-oh. Okay. All right. Well, that only took an hour, but that's okay. It's an hour well spent. Great to get to know all of you a little bit. We're going to take a break in just a couple minutes, but before we do that, during our first break, I'm going to ask you to sign up for one of the group presentations. And before I ask you to sign up, I want to tell you a little bit about it and then explain the process for how we're going to sign up. Okay, so I'll explain the requirements for the group presentation a little bit later when we get to that part in the course requirements. But let me just briefly hit on this. As a group, you are going to prepare a presentation of no more than 30 minutes on a topic. You're going to do it in a group of 4 or 5. And your presentation will have some requirements, which I'll touch on later. Your participation in the group is dependent on how your group decides it wants to work. Some groups will have each person do like a segment of the presentation. Some groups will have, you know, these 2 people are going to present, these 2 people are going to find all the resources. But how you choose to do it is, frankly, it doesn't really matter to me. I'll explain the grading for that later, but this is a group in that all of you are going to be, you know, expected to pull your own weight in the group. There are 4 topics, and then the last one's kind of a or if you want to change it. The first one is leading generations. You know, that I'm telling you these so you can maybe think, well, I'd like to work on that one. I find that one interesting, or I don't like that one, or whatever. The first one is on leading generations, and what I mean by that is people put groups of people by their age typically in different social groups. I forget what they're called exactly, but I don't know if I'm a baby boomer or a Gen Xer. I was born in '67, but you know about Gen Y, you know about millennials, Gen Z. There's a few baby boomers still out there working, etc. So the question is, as a leader, how do you approach people from these different age groups? Is it different when you have a class where, or I'm sorry, when you have a school where many of your staff might be Gen Z folks, Gen Y folks, and then all of a sudden now you're starting to hire some millennials in there as well? And what's different about being a leader when you have millennials? What's different about this particular group of people? And what do you need to know as a leader
so that while you're trying to, go about doing things to move your school forward, you're not, turning off a complete section of people based on something. So, I think about when I started as a teacher was 1990. I had a bag phone. Remember the bag? The giant bag phone. And I was so cool because I had one of those. And I remember making my first phone call and saying, "You're never going to guess where I'm calling you from." But that was technology. I was an early adopter in that I had an Amiga computer and then an Apple. I was one of the first Mac in a box, the little 9-inch black and white Macintosh, right? And now I think of like my own children when I talked out of being a math teacher. He's never not known a world without the internet, a cell phone, having that in his pocket, or just constant connectivity, social media, and those kind of things. So you're going to walk into a school where some people will shy away from using technology. You put a nice Promethean board in front of them and everything else, and they'll write on it. And then they'll wheel their overhead projector in front of it and write on their transparencies. And meanwhile, you'll have people who will be like, "Can I get my Apple TV so I can broadcast from my phone to there when I do this with my kids because I want to take an instant poll and blah, blah." And okay, now how do you as a leader tackle that? That's leading generations. Leading in a diverse environment, you can take this a number of directions. You could take it school-wide diversity, or you could take it staff-wide diversity. But I grew up in Wisconsin. There was one person of color in my school, K-12, one. Then I became a principal in Bloomer, Wisconsin. I was a principal for 14 years. Over the course of 14 years, I had 5 students of color in 14 years. My staff, I never had anyone but a Caucasian person on my staff in 14 years. Right. So then I moved to Chattanooga, and I started mentoring a young man at Brainerd High School. And I would go and visit him at Brainerd High School. And Brainerd High School was slightly different than where I was a principal in Bloomer, in that it was like Brainerd High School is about 96, I think, percent African American, 100% poverty, actually, at Brainerd, in that everyone is on free and reduced lunch at Brainerd. So some of you are going to graduate from this program, and you may be a leader at Signal Mountain Middle School High School up on the mountain, or you may be a leader at Brainerd High School. How are you going to need to approach those positions differently? What do you need to know in order to be an effective leader? And what is it that will transpond regardless of where you're a leader? But what is it you need to know in order to be an effective leader in an environment that's not all necessarily alike? If that makes sense. Okay? The irony here is my wife is a beautiful African American woman. And now, so I grew up in the most racist home I have ever been in. And this is my little aside. So I have a niece who's 31 or 32 now, Brittany. And when my parents were alive, they said to her, come and visit. When are you going to bring a man? And my dad said, you can bring a man from college as long as he's not black. And because Grandpa would die. And then Grandma from her chair leaned over and said, and Grandma too. And so now that's a joke in my family because now both my parents are dead. And so I called my brother and I said, hey, guess what? He said, what? I said, I'm getting married. That's awesome. Yeah, you got to meet her. And then I showed him a picture and he's like, oh boy. He said, I'm going to go to the cemetery. And I said, well, why is that? He said, I want to actually see if I can hear Mom and Dad rolling over in their graves over this. But okay, I digress there. My point being this. For those of you who are going to be leaders, you don't know the school you're going to be a leader in. And you need to be prepared to be a school leader in Signal Mountain or at Howard or at Brainerd or East Ridge or East Hamilton or, forgive me, people at home, or in Alamo. I don't know what Alamo is like. Jennifer, what's Alamo like?
You're
muted. Unmute, Jennifer. I can unmute you. What's Alamo like, Jennifer?
It's a tiny little farm town. I mean, my school is its own district, if that tells you anything. We're the only school in our district.
It does. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. Awesome. You know, go ahead.
If you blink, you miss it. It's small.
Gotcha. Okay. I always used to joke, Bloomer, there's 3,500 names in the phone book, but only 5 different ones. Yeah. Anyway. Well, okay. So that's what leading a diverse environment is like. All right. Empowering others has to do with maybe what you heard some people say, for example, about Karen Hollis or a few other people who they felt were particularly inspiring. Many of you are in this program because someone came to you and said, you know, I think you would be a great leader. If it weren't for Pat Newdecker, when I was a band director at North Star Middle School, talking to me and saying, you know what, I think you'd be a really good principal, Barry. Maybe you want to consider going to school. I probably would have never done that. And then if it weren't for her colleague, Tom Fiedler, saying, you know, how would you like some leadership responsibility in our school? We need to do this schedule, whatever. Would you like to go ahead and take the lead on that? And I was like, oh my gosh, would I love to do that? So how can you, even though you're beginning leaders yourselves, what is it you need to focus on when you become a leader to ensure that you're empowering others to also reach their potential? Possibly as leaders, possibly as followers, but how is it you can empower others? Because that's an important part of being a leader. There's actually a great book, I think, what is it called? The Followership or the Art of Following or something. It takes a look at servant leadership and how really it's a focus on your followers that actually is how you should focus on being a better leader. So anyway, and then finally, the last one is your choice. Either A, building capacity for change, and building is a verb, by the way, not a noun. So how is it that you, in a school where you feel that there needs to be change, how is it you can build that capacity for change so that you don't just come into a school and go, you know what, guys, you are doing this so wrong. What we're going to need to do is this, this, and this. Because if you do that, chances are good everyone in that school is not going to want to follow you, and they're going to think you want to just come in and change things. And people tend to be resistant to change because they get comfortable. So what that one is focused on is before you can start a change effort, how can you build the capacity, the groundwork that needs to happen, the foundation before you implement the change? Because that's what you need to start thinking about as a leader. And then I put the or other topic as approved. If there's something else, if you've been reading through the text and you think to yourself, you know, I would really like to explore this topic, and you can talk your group into it. If you come to me and say, you know, Dr. K, I would really prefer to focus on gender inequity in leadership, or it doesn't matter to me what it is, or the steps of a change process. Really, you know what, I was looking at Michael Fullen's change process, and we'd really like to focus on that. Could we do that? I'll almost say certainly yes, as long as it's in line with one of our themes for this course, which are things like communication, power, influence, and change, and decision making. If it's in line with that, then you're going to be fine. So questions on the topics? Okay, so here's what we're going to do. In this basket, I have numbers ranging from 1 to 17. You are going to pick out a number from 1 to 17, and then we're going to sign up in that order. The 2 numbers that are left in the basket are going to be Jennifer and Christy's number. The first one I pick out of those 2 will be Jennifer's, the second one will be Christy's. And as we go to our break, we'll go in numerical order, and it sounds a little elementary, but we'll go in numerical order. I used to do this where people just like go ahead, sign up, and people were pushing them. So I don't want that, right? So if you just will pick out one number, and once we all have a number, we'll in an orderly fashion.
Don't forget to.
I appreciate your honesty.
I put back the
I took like 8 of them, and I'm like, I don't need this one, this one, this one.
Single digit, no.
That's hilarious. My nephew and I went to an Atlanta Hawks game a couple of years ago, and they had some giveaway where you could reach in this booth while everything was spinning around with the leaf blower, and you could win prizes. But the booth was like clear, you could see through it. And I did just that. I reached in there with my hand and I could see all the ones that I had, and I let go of every one that wasn't a winner, and I got a free hat. Are there 18? No, you get to be double last. I wasn't sure if Calvin Williams was going to be here today, so.
We could get this to Calvin.
I just feel like that would be unfair.
Oh, no.
I hope, are you in the ethics class this year? I'm just curious.
No, I'm not. You guys should be.
Well,
I'm the opposite. I'm going with mine.
No, mine's a 6.
Really, I'm supposed to put a line under one of those. So, okay.
I don't know.
Jennifer, you're 8. And Christy, you're 7. So Christy, you're 7. Jennifer, you're 8. Which are they identical?
Absolutely identical.
You know what? You guys can fight it out.
We are. We're gonna arm wrestle for it.
I think we'll do that. All right, and Calvin is 10. I tell you what, Amanda, let's do it. You can be 10.
We'll say.
Calvin should have come to class. He gets last. So. All right. So I will trust you to do this in your own numerical order. There's some markers there, some here. Just set your number down there. When we get to 7, let me know, because Christy's 7 and Jennifer's 8. Otherwise, number 1 can go. It is almost 1:45 at 2 o'clock. We'll reconvene class. So sign up, and at 2 o'clock, class starts again. You can feed your meters, feed yourself, whatever you need to do.
Can you go over empowering others one more time?
What now?
Empowering others one more time.
Empowering others is how, as a leader, you can empower others to be leaders and empower them to participate to their fullest potential. Let me know after, when 6 goes, let me know. There's a total benefit to being first because you get more break time.
Yeah.
Great. Did we decide who's 6?
Well, he said I can go first.
Okay, well, that was nice. That was nice. No.
Oh, that's, all right, so I can't pick that one because I'll be in trouble if that's the one you want.
You think what you want to take.
They're all great.
I know, right? Can't go wrong.
Just like that.
All right, Christy, which one did you want? Christy?
Trying to tell you what she can.
She's on. It's okay. I'll unmute you. Christy, which one did you want?
Number 4, the building capacity for change.
Well, that was nice of you.
Is that bad?
And Jennifer?
Empowering others.
All right. Who is 9? That's me. Okay.
Look, there's still a spot for everyone. Right?
Non-trouble.
I was really looking for the battle royal, but. Oh, all right. I got 2 o'clock, so it's time to press on. Between now and our next break, we will go through the syllabus and get at least hopefully all the way, but certainly part of the way through what the expectations are for the class, what the requirements are for what you need to complete. So throughout this program, we'll talk about how your job is to help teachers teach better. And we'll talk about different instructional strategies and all of those kind of things. And one of the things you'll discover is that the least effective way for a teacher to teach is lecture, where they just stand in front of the class and talk. I preface that because I want you to know, I know this isn't the most effective way to teach. However, since we're going through the syllabus and the requirements, there's really not opportunity for a lot of like collaborative working together, because I just want to make sure you know what is expected of you. So I preface this with, I know this isn't the best way to teach, but it's, at least for now, the only way I know to get the content to you. I just noticed one typo in the syllabus, in that it's 5710, not 5770, but nonetheless. Okay, this is an old version, I think, because this is not true that there's only an online class. This class meets 12:30 to 4:30, October 24th, 19, September 21st, and November 2nd. I was going to do a class online on September 21, but that's not true. I think this is just an older version of the syllabus. All of the classes meet here or using Zoom, so here are the dates for the Zoom. Remember, our next class session, September 21st, will start with program orientation. So for Dana and Amanda, you may not want to come to the first hour and a half to 2 hours in September, because we're going to be going through the mentorship requirements, the field experience requirements, the electronic portfolio requirement, those kind of things. If you want to come, you're welcome to, but just so you know, that's what we're covering for the first part of September 21. I give you my office phone number here. My office number is right next door. My office hours, frankly, I hold office hours technically on Thursdays, but I'll meet with you almost any time that will work out for you. Most of the time, students stay after on Saturdays if they want to talk to me. A lot of times, people will want to meet and ask some questions, and we'll do that using Zoom. I've met with several of you I know using Zoom. It's just easier, frankly, for both of us, certainly for me if I'm in Marietta, but a lot of times for you too. I just met with Michael from the 5730 class. Some of you met. I had to talk to him about something yesterday. We Zoomed in. We were able to meet. He was in his classroom and I was at home, so it works out pretty well. All you need to do is email me if you need to get a hold of me. In the when I go through the Canvas online stuff in a minute, I'll show you where my cell number is too, so you can have that. But it's a requirement at UTC that we go through the syllabus, so I just want to buzz through it. Most things I'll say you need to just read on your own. Every class in our program is aligned to the Tennessee Instructional Leadership Standards and also the Teacher Leader Standards. There's two sets of standards and they're very confusing. One is the TILS, one is the TLS. So the Tennessee Instructional Leadership Standards, those are required for any program that is going to lead to licensure in the state of Tennessee, a leadership license, the ILLB, or principal's license, some people refer to it as that.
we have to be aligned to the Tennessee Instructional Leadership Standards. For those of you in the teacher leadership program, your program is aligned to the teacher leader standards, which are national teacher leader standards. And those are the TLS. It's probably not important to you right now, but when you go to do your portfolio, it will be. So I list the standards that this class is aligned to. You can read through those on your own. First the TILs, then the TLS. Okay. Then there's 11 course objectives. And those are what we'll be doing this semester. Every course in the program will have course objectives, and it will have module objectives. The module objectives align to the course objectives, or they should anyway. You, of course, already have the text for the course. And I apologize, I just got the 10th edition like this week. This is the edition you should have up until this week. I've been going on to the 9th edition. So I'll try and make sure that my page numbers go with your page numbers. Morgan, which version do you have? It's the 9th? Yeah. You're fine. No, you're fine with the 9th, actually. There's a few things new in the 10th, but not a lot. Okay. I put down that you need to at least have for a reference item the APA version 6, the 6th edition of the APA manual. Let me just say this. I don't expect you to go out and buy this manual. If you do, that's great. But I do expect you to follow it, whether you own it or not. What I mean by that is this. Everything that you submit, unless I tell you it's not supposed to be in APA format, assume that it is. Which means it should have a title page, which means it should have a running head, it should have page numbers in the upper right hand, it should be double spaced, it should be in Times New Roman 12-point font, it should be indented for each new paragraph, not block paragraphs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You don't need to have the book to find out how to do it. There's several online resources. A really good one is the Purdue Writing Lab. It's the Purdue Online Writing Lab, which is OWL. That's a great writing resource. Again, it doesn't matter to me whether you buy the text. It only matters to me whether you write accordingly.
So assignments that have a numbered question are considered a writing assignment and need to be an APA?
Yes, unless I tell you not to, or unless it just doesn't make sense. For example, I might say, answer these 5 questions. And if you're going to answer 5 questions, you don't need to have that. You don't need to format it accordingly. Let me just make sure I'm recording right quick. I am, good. Okay. Technology requirements, read through on your own. Read all this stuff on your own. Technology support, how to find it. And let's get to grading. Different ways that you earn points. Everything that's required for this class is a point total. For each class session, if you show up either in person or online and you participate in the class, those are each worth 10 for a total of 40 points. There are 3 discussion boards for this class that are graded, and there's a couple that aren't. Each of those are 5 points. Every week there is every module, I should say, not every week. So basically every 2-ish weeks, there is a quiz that is each worth 5 points for 30. And then there are 6 assignments. There are 6 modules, 6 assignments. One of those assignments is worth 42 points, and the rest are each worth 20. So we've got a total of 227 points. I go on a 90, 80, 70, 60% for grading. So just be aware of that. Canvas will always show you your current percentage. And if we have a chance, I'll go through that as well. Now, the things I do want to hit when it comes to grading, I want to make sure that you understand a few things. First of all, failure to complete any of the course requirements results not only in a loss of points for that requirement, but also 10 punitive points. So what do I mean by that? All right, so let's say we're in the second to the last week of class, and you have 95% of the points, and it comes time to do the 6th quiz, and mathematically you say to yourself, you know what, I don't even need to do this quiz, because if I lose those 5 points, I'm still going to get an A. What I do here is I say you not only lose those 5 points, but you lose a punitive 10 points in addition to that. So you'll lose 15 points, which will almost certainly lower your grade. And that's for every assignment you choose not to do. I guess the point is, if I ask you to do it, I think it's important, or I wouldn't ask you to do it. So basically, not choosing to not do something is not an option. Great. Hopefully you already read through this, but the posting deadlines, each module is around 2 weeks long. I would like you to start posting in the module by the first Friday of the module, and then by the second Sunday is when I'd like you to be done with your posts in the module. I'll go through that rubric here shortly, but I just want you to be aware of that. I'll go through the module, the discussion board rubric, so you understand it. One thing I want you to make sure you see in the syllabus is when it comes to group work. You just signed up for a group assignment, and in the syllabus, it explains your participation in that group assignment. So reading through it, you will select a topic, which you've already done. It's expected that all members of the group participate equally. If all members of the group agree that the group participated equally, then everyone in that group will receive the same grade. However, if any members of the group provide detailed evidence to support that another member did not participate substantially, then that student will receive a grade that is half that of the group. If a student receives a lower grade based on this provision, he or she will have 1 week to provide the instructor in writing with a request that his or her grade be the same as that of the entire group, and he or she must provide evidence that he or she did, in fact, participate in a substantial level. A substantial level is defined as a level at which the individual's work made an impact on the group's presentation so that, without the member's work, the presentation would have been markedly different. So there was my little legal disclaimer. Let me just explain what that actually means. And I've had this happen once in 5 years, but I want it to be out there. You have a group of 5 people for, let's say, leading generations over here. And Courtney and Kayla work their tails off, and they try and get the group organized, and finally Vanessa joins in and starts helping, and Calvin's like, yeah, I'll be there, but no matter what they do, Amanda just refuses to participate. I've worked with her for a year, I know. And so she's struggling to participate. You realize that your grade's really important, whatever, you do your presentation, and I give you all, out of the 20 points, a 20. Then Kayla sends me an email that says, Dr. K, Amanda, we had a discussion board that went on. We had a total of 100 posts. Amanda posted once that she agreed with us. And when it came time to actually do the presentation, she said she would do this slide, but she didn't do it. I feel pretty strongly that her grade shouldn't be the same as ours. What I will do then is I will approach Amanda, and I will not say Kayla said, but I will say, A, or several members of your group have indicated that your participation in this activity was not at a substantial level. Therefore, your grade is going to be that is half that of the group. You'll get a 10 out of 20. Now, Amanda might say, that's not bad. I did nothing. I'll get 10 points, which is an option. Or she might say, hey, wait a minute. I did all this research, and I sent it to Calvin, and he was supposed to share it to the group. And if she can provide within a week in writing evidence that shows, wait a minute, I did this, 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 this. If I hadn't done that, Calvin wouldn't have been able to do his slides, and therefore my grade should be the same, and then her grade could be the same. But then the ownership becomes on her to prove that she did. And the substantial is defined as that without her participation, the presentation would have been markedly different or noticeably different. So questions on that? Like I said, I've had it happen one time in 5 years. It doesn't happen a lot. Generally, all of you are motivated individuals. your, with exception of maybe the reading specialist people, I don't know about them, but you know, most of you had to have letters of recommendation to get into the program. You want to be a leader in education. It's almost always the opposite problem, is 5 people want to be a leader on a project. And you know, but I just want to make sure you understand. Okay, the module due dates I'll discuss when we get into Canvas. Late or missing work, late assignments or projects or anything will be reduced by 1 point per day. After 10 points, you get a 0 posted for any late assignment, and late work will no longer be accepted. If you have an extenuating circumstance, please see me about that. I'm not a completely heartless person. I just have timelines for me posting grades and things. But if you come to me with an issue or something, please know that I'll be very understanding. My belief when I was a middle school principal, and I've carried it into the university level, is that time should be the variable and learning the constant. And unfortunately, most of us grew up in an era where learning was the variable and time was the constant in our schools. And what I mean by that is we had to go from this time to this time, and whether or not you learned it, you were evaluated on it. My belief is that we have to go from learning this to learning this, and however long it takes you to get to learning this is what should be flexible rather than what you learn. So anyway, I'll get off that soapbox. Plagiarism, please know that anything you turn in online in Canvas goes through a plagiarism check. And I get not only a percentage of what is not original, but also the sources it comes from. It's highlighted in multiple colors. I can click on it and it'll show me what, like, a source where it actually came from. It's actually a great tool. Anytime I submit an article, for example, for a journal or something, I submit it here first and run it through. And then I can see, you know, I did, because of course I don't want to plagiarize, but I will paraphrase. And is my paraphrasing, you know, so alike that I need to change it some more that it pops up in the system? So just be aware of that. UTC has an honor court program where if your grades are lowered, or there's 2 kinds of honor court appearances. One can be for behavior and one can be for academics. You're not full-time college students, most of you, and you don't, you know, live in the dorms or whatever, and I'm not really worried that you're, you know, going to be drinking at the football game. Although as a faculty supervisor, maybe you will be drinking at a football game, I don't know. Nonetheless, there is an honor court system where if you want to appeal a grade that you're given, that's all explained in the UTC catalog for how to do that. I serve on the honor court, but of course, if you're appealing a grade in this class, I wouldn't serve on your honor court. Which, by the way, it's been really a very interesting honor court at UTC. Is super interesting to serve on situations where kids cheat and things like that. It's been very interesting.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So the grades that you have on Canvas, when you put them inside, when you submit them to, I guess, whatever system is in UTC, is there a difference of our grade in Canvas to
what gets posted?
Right.
Yeah, it's actually called Banner, is the system where grades get posted. Yeah, yep. There will not be a difference between what's in Canvas and what goes in Banner, with a small exception possibly. If your grade is super close, a lot of times I will give you the benefit of the doubt. If you have an 89.9%, and instead of giving you a B, chances are good you'll get an A. So I'll take some liberty there. Otherwise, it's usually pretty close to that.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
You mentioned that you use
Mackenzie, right? Yeah.
You
Mackenzie.
mentioned that you use the software to check your work. Is that available to us as students too?
Actually, you'll get the. I have it set up that you'll get a report when you submit. You should get a plagiarism report, and we can check on that here today too. So that's everything in the syllabus. Now let's go to the course homepage. Wake up at home. I want to make sure you're awake. All right, just checking. Okay. The course introduction, learning objectives and standards, you can read through this on your own, of course. What it does show is that every module is laid out the same. It'll start with the module objectives, which will also show what course objectives we have. You'll have a reading or a lecture. It's almost always a reading. Sometimes there might be either a PowerPoint or a YouTube video or something as well. Every one of my classes, there's always a quiz that almost always comes from the reading or lecture. So for example, the first quiz you have, which is due, I think, September 1, you have a reading assignment. The questions for that come from the text for that quiz. For this class, most of your quiz questions are essays rather than multiple choice. For some of my classes, I'll do a lot of multiple choice. But here I want to start hearing your thoughts on things, so I want to actually read through them. For 3 of yours, there's a graded discussion board. For most of my classes, for every module, there's a discussion board. In here, there's not for everyone. And then every module has an assignment. I talked about the standards already. I talked about the course objectives already. So we probably don't need to cover that anymore. You can read about me if you'd like. That's the instructor introduction. The course syllabus I just showed you. Let's talk about the course rubrics. There are a few different rubrics for this course, and I want to make sure you understand them. I had one student last semester who kind of got on me a little bit that she felt the rubrics, she couldn't find them, and it was very misleading, to which I kind of I was respectful because that's important to me, but I was like, I don't know where I could put them to be more obvious than right underneath the course syllabus, but that's where they are. So now don't ever tell me you can't find them. Okay. Discussion board and assignment rubrics are right here. And I don't know if I can zoom in on this. In my Mac, I would just be able to, easily do that. But okay, here's a discussion board rubric. All discussion boards are worth 5 points. There are 5 different criteria: your critical analysis, participation, timeliness, etiquette, and quality of writing. Okay, let's start from the bottom. Quality of writing. I rarely, if ever, have a student lose a point here, but your choice is 1 or 0. There's no in between. It's either written well or it's not written well. I lower my standards somewhat for a discussion board than I would for a paper because I realize it's a discussion board. I don't want you using slang, though. I don't want you not using your own thoughts, using other people's thoughts without citing, etc. Etiquette. Etiquette basically means, also sometimes referred to as netiquette, but that your discussion shows respect for other people, regardless of their race, religion, creed, background, sexual orientation, political views, religious views, or whatever. So if someone writes something and says, I believe this, this, and that, and you get on them and say, well, that's stupid because of, whatever, I don't care, because Trump is the greatest president ever and therefore you're stupid. That's the way you'll lose points here. As long as we're respectful, that doesn't mean you can't disagree with someone. And matter of fact, I encourage you to disagree with people. But it's how you voice that disagreement. As long as you do it in a respectful way, you're fine. I rarely have students who don't follow this. Timeliness. Each of you should respond to posts across multiple days in the module, not 1 or 2. Your posts should not be lumped together in either one day or a couple of days, such as just near the beginning or just near the end of the module, and you respond to question or replies to your post within 24 hours. So again, this is either 1 or 0 points. If someone asks you a question within a day, you should get back to their question. Your posts, if let's say hypothetically it's a 2-week module and it starts on the 1st and goes to the 14th, if you post on the 1st and then post again on the 14th, you're going to lose points for timeliness. Or if you post 3 times on the 14th or 5 times on the 14th, but don't participate. The idea being that it's an ongoing discussion. Your class only meets 4 times face-to-face. This first time, we haven't had a lot of opportunity for discussion because it's syllabus and things like that. So really, there's only 3 times for discussion here. So I want you to have some discussion online. There's great learning to be had from one another, but you have to do it in an ongoing fashion. Participation, and I want to make sure you see this, because participation is broken down between 1, a half, a quarter, or 0 points. And I want to make sure you see the part at the end here, because it has to do with the number of times you post and the number of days in which you post. So in order to get the full 1 for participation, you need to post a minimum of 5 posts over 4 different days in the module. That's a minimum. You cannot get a 1 if you post 4 times in 4 days. You have to post 5 times in 4 days. You cannot get a 1 if you post 5 times in 1 day. Okay? To get a half a point, you post 4 times over 3 days. To get a quarter of a point, 3 times over 3 days. And anything less than 3 posts over 3 days is 0 points. Because I'll often get students who will post 5 posts, but on the last day. They post on the first day and the last day. 1 post on the first day, 5 posts on the last day, and they say, well, I posted more than 5 times. I'm like, yeah, but, and they end up getting a 0 for timeliness and a 0 for participation. So keep that in mind. And then finally, it's just basically your content or your critical analysis. Whether it displays an understanding of the topics that we were covering, the reading, etc. If you do refer to your reading, if you cite it appropriately, etc., all the way down to your kind of without a clue. And you just say things like, I agree, or that's a great idea, or whatever, without backing it up, okay? It's a little pet peeve of mine is, I mean, it's okay to agree with people or disagree, but when you just say, I agree, nice job, that's not really participating in a discussion, okay? Questions on the discussion board rubric? I've got my back to school sore throat right now from talking. Yes.
I can't remember where I read it, but I think it's that your initial post is due by the first Friday of the module, is that correct? I think I read that your first, I can't read that, it's awful, but I think I read that your first post is due by the first
Friday of the month, first month, week. Yep.
Is there any meetings this week?
Yeah.
I know that no one in my group has posted yet.
They're all slackers.
Well, no,
No, I understand. Yeah, no, yeah, I can be a little lenient this week. That's fine. You know, sometimes I participate in your discussion boards. I don't routinely do that. I'll read through them sometimes. One thing that I do, what's really nice about Canvas as opposed to we used to have Blackboard, is when I go to grade your discussion boards, I'll click on your name. All of your posts come up. And when they were posted, who they were a reply to, when that post was posted. So I get a really clear picture of what you did, which makes grading a lot easier for me. So, yep. All right, your assignment post. Here's your group presentation rubric. This one's pretty simple too. Best practice, your presentation cites at least one research-based best practice, provides the class with ideas or suggestions for real-world application. Application at all levels. When you do your group presentation, keep in mind that I want it to be applicable at all levels. So most of these are generic enough in which they will automatically be at all levels, so I really wouldn't worry about that. The presentation itself, whether the slides are clear and easy to read, how you go about presenting, etc., is worth 5 points. And then engagement, and I'll cover this when we get to this in the course, but you'll find out that your activity needs to include at least one group activity where we're engaged, so it's not just a lecture, and you get graded on that as well. And then there's also, I think, a time requirement in here somewhere of 30 minutes. Maybe it's not. It should be, but it's limited to 30. And then finally on your assignments, those are all worth 20. First is on the context. Whenever you do your assignment, if you can, if it's at all possible, I encourage you to remove any identifying characteristics. So if Kiara, right? Kiara comes to me and says, you know, at Howard School, we do this, this, and this, and my administrator, Elizabeth Renaison, did this, this, and this. I'm going to get on her about that, and she's going to lose points. And here's why. Because chances are good that Kiara is going to post this in her online portfolio, which I know you don't know a lot about yet, but each of you are going to have a portfolio, with the exception of like reading specialists won't have that for this program, but the rest of you will have a portfolio, and you're going to post things as artifacts in your portfolio. And I don't ever want it to get out of here that you know, we were talking about other people. We may talk about other people, but it's kind of like Vegas here. We want to keep it within the walls of our classroom. Whether you meet or exceed the project requirements, did you do as expected of you? And then I put down reflection or accuracy. It kind of depends on the assignment. Sometimes an assignment requires you to answer questions, and if you get the right answer, that's accuracy. Sometimes it asks for a reflection, and when it asks for a reflection, I want to make sure that you do the following things. An explanation of what was done, what would be changed if given the opportunity to redo the project based on data from the project, and that demonstrates growth and understanding and outlines a clear path for future growth and learning. So that's what should be included in your reflection on assignments that have a reflection. And then the last is quality of writing. Remember, APA format, running head, page numbers, title page, all of those things should be included. For most things, for a lot of things, I include examples, so that's helpful too. I think I already showed the group presentation rubric. For one assignment, the ETIPS assignment, it has its own special rubric. I'm not going to show you that today because after our our program orientation on the 21st, the rest of that class time is devoted to the ETIPS assignment. So the ETIPS is an online decision-making, what would you call it? An online decision-making scenario, I guess, where you will go through and actually examine data from a fictitious school district. So it's a simulation more than anything. All right, those are the course rubrics. Course at a glance, I do this because I find it helpful, and I hope you do too. Whereas in each module, I'll put the dates of the module, if there's class session, what's due and when. So for this first module that goes until the 1st of September, your quiz is due September 1st, but your definition of leadership was due today. The next module goes until the 15th, your quiz is due the 15th, but your assignment isn't due until the end of the semester. You can see where everything is due, etc. Here I even said don't start the module 3 decision-making project till after September 21. You'll notice that the dates for module 4 are beyond 2 weeks. That's about 3 weeks. That's because of Hamilton County and UTC's fall breaks are in there. This module might be a little bit longer too on conflict management. The last module is nearly a month long. And you'll also notice that there's no discussion board, there's no assignment due. And the reason for that is because you're going to be working on your module 2 assignments, which I'll go over shortly. All right. 2 more things in the home screen, then we'll get to each module. There's a discussion board called C4Q. C4Q stands for 4 C's and a Q, which are comments, concerns, criticisms, complaints, and questions. This is your opportunity if you're working on something and you're like, I don't get that, or this seems wrong, or why do we have to do that, a place for you to post it. All you have to do is click reply. I subscribe to this. You can subscribe to it if you want to as well. So if you post to something, I'll also get an email so I can go in and look at it. So ways to get in touch with me, did I give you my cell number? I think I did. Instructor introduction. Yeah, in the instructor introduction, I give you my cell phone number. You can text me if you need to. Just realize I'm old and go to bed. You can email me, or if you want to and you think it's for the benefit of the class, post something in the C4Q. And then finally, The Zoom links for each of the 4 courses are posted here as well, for those of you who will be attending from home. These things are things that aren't available to you that I just post so that I can access them during class. All right, questions about any of those general things? Otherwise, I'm going to move on to each module. I'm getting hand cramps and a sore throat. back to school here. Okay. I don't have to go through the module objectives or reading for module 1 or the quiz. The discussion board, hopefully a couple of you have already started, but not all of you. I have posted you in groups. So you have an assignment to read. It's from your book. It's case number 48. And then based on that and what you've read, your group is to answer the following questions. I do this almost always with my discussion boards. Basically, one person in the group, whoever you guys decide, has to post a final post that says, whatever it is, final post consensus. So here you're going to answer these questions. When you come to a consensus as a group, whoever you decide is the person who's going to post it, post final group consensus. What I like to do then, excuse me, is I will share, there's 4 groups for this first discussion board. At the end of the discussion board, I will send back to you all 4 of the different groups' responses. So you can do a little compare and contrast between what the different groups did. And as we know from the work of Robert Marzano, compare and contrast is the most impactful instructional strategy there is. So.
Do you change the discussion groups every module?
They're random, but yes. Yeah.
And then the groups right here,
You signed up.
For module 2.
Yep, and you signed up for that. Is it 2?
Well, I was just asking because that was module 2 is the one that is due at the end of the semester.
I don't think that's the module 2, is it? Maybe it is.
I think of the module 2, but the discussion board stuff still do.
Well, here, what I can do, good question. I can go to Course at a Glance and see right where it is. Yeah, your group presentation is actual module 5. So your module 5 discussion board will be those groups. Okay. Yeah. And I'm not even going to make groups. You guys can just post if you want to. One thing, and I'll get there in a minute, but every group has to post their presentation in that discussion board so that everyone can access it. But if you want to start a thread for just like the Leading Generations group or something, you can start a thread that just those people will use. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay. Good question. All right. Your module 1 assignment you've already done and you uploaded. And if we have time, we're going to talk about it. I want you to keep this definition with you because it's something that you will reference as you move throughout the program and when you finish the program as well. So it's about as easy as it gets. Your module 1 assignment was about as easy as it gets. All right, let's move on to module 2. Sorry. You can read the objectives and what it is you're supposed to read on your own, the quiz, the discussion board, but let me get to the assignments. All right. Module 2 assignments, there are 2 of them, and each of them are due at the end of the semester. This is field experience for the program. Let me just kind of go over this. Regardless of if you're in any school leadership program, whether it's teacher leadership or principal licensure, you have a field experience requirement. It's either 200 or 450 hours. And I'll cover that September 21st. You are going to keep track of your field experience that you complete. You're going to post it all in an electronic portfolio. Don't let this overwhelm you now. In September, I promise you'll get it. As part of that, for every class, there's going to be a field experience requirement. You're going to be doing things in schools in every class throughout the program. For this program, it's very generic. For this class, it's very generic. For those of you who were in 5730 this morning, I'm guessing you're still doing the school culture and climate analysis, where you do a survey and you analyze the survey. Okay, that's field experience built into the class. For this one, it's more generic in that I let you pick from some different options. The idea with this class is that you start to transition yourself from that of a teacher, or I don't want to use the word follower because a lot of teachers are leaders, but I want you to get you into that leader mindset and not a leader of students, because almost all of you are leaders of students. If you're a parent, if you work at a church, or if you work at a school, you're used to leading students, right? But it's different. It's really different leading adults from leading students. Usually students are easy and adults are challenging to be a leader. What I want you to do is to start now acting as a leader, start synthesizing as a leader, start reflecting as a leader, start looking at things through a different lens. So these two assignments that you have, the first one is your field experience assignment, part 1. You must complete a minimum of 20 hours of field experience, and you must also have an approved mentor before you begin this field experience. The mentor approval form can be found in the leadership organization. Don't worry about this just yet. I promise you will know after September 21. Of the field experience requirements, you need to choose 2 of these or something close and complete them by the end of the semester. So here are your options. A, serve on a strategic planning team. B, serve as a department chair or a team leader. B, 4, develop a chair or chair a staff morale committee. 5, lead or participate in a PBIS or similar committee. That's positive behavior interventions and support. Could also be RTI, tier 1, 2, or 3, anything like that. Number 6, lead a book study or a study group. Number 7, attend board meetings. This typically is school board meetings. And number 8, chair or lead a committee related to standards. So in the program handbook, which you haven't seen yet, each one of these are outlined in what you need to do. But this semester, I need you to pick 2 of those and participate a total of 20 hours. Now, you might say to me, well, I can't do that because of X, Y, or Z. I'm not the team leader, whatever. And we can work on these together. You can ask your principal, supervisor, whatever. Maybe you can form your own, book study group or something like that at work. You can ask your mentor or principal if you can start a staff morale or a sunshine committee or something like that at your school, whatever you want to do. Let me say this, if none of these will work for you, let me know if there's something in the handbook that will. On September 21, I'll show you the handbook. There are 113 field experience options. I picked these because these are all leadership opportunities, to take leadership of an adult group, or to see, like attending board meetings, to see how adult groups function, for example. But if you have something close or similar, talk to me and I would be open to any other ideas that you have. So for example, if you say to me, you know what, we're starting whatever program at my school, whatever it might be, and I was asked if I could serve on that committee, that's fine. It'll undoubtedly be fine. If it's not a PBIS committee, that's okay. These are ones from the actual program handbook. So at the conclusion of this course, and that's by December 2nd, you will submit a final project that addresses both of these field experience activities. You will submit 2 papers, one for each field experience, FX's field experience. Each paper should be 3 to 5 pages in length. Each paper is worth 20 points. And here's the link where you submit the first paper, and there should be a link on the second one where you submit your second paper. Each paper should be formatted as follows: your introduction, the leadership activities, and your reflection. And notice that I say you need to address the following topics in your reflection with a subheading: communication, decision-making, authority, power, influence, and change. Those are the big topics for this course, the themes for this course. So what have you learned about these is what you'll reflect on. And then I just include the rubric for that. This is where you post your second paper. So there's Module 2 assignment part 1 and part 2. They're basically the same assignment, but they're two different field experience things. Each one should be 20 hours. Each one will result in a paper. On September 21st, I will explain to you where you're going to be posting these beyond just in this class. On September 21st in program orientation, I will explain to you the electronic portfolio that you'll be completing to finish the program, and that you will need one artifact and one reflection for every standard. The good news is that as you move through the programs, you're going to have a lot of them done. So, for example, in this class, you're going to have 2 artifacts and 2 reflections done. There's 26 total if you're a principal leadership person. There's more if you're a teacher leader. I want to say 50. There's a lot more if you're, it's more difficult. But for the TILs, there's 26. You'll have 2 done already if you're a principal person.
I hear you correctly, it's 40 hours total, 20 each.
2020.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. Now, if you don't have 20 hours, am I going to downgrade you? No. That's my estimate, and it's also my encouragement, because if you're in this program and you have to get between 200 and 450 hours of field experience, it's to your advantage to get as many as you can now.
Is it the same mentor for both?
Yeah, but we'll talk about your mentor on the 21st. Just so you know, your mentor is someone who has to have the license for which you're aspiring if it's a licensure program. So if you're a reading specialist, it has to be someone with the reading specialist license. If you're principal, it has to be someone with the ILLB or ILLP. And if you are a teacher leader, it has to be someone with a teaching license. So that can be most anyone. However, I usually like it to be a principal or a coach or a team leader or someone with a leadership function. But we'll cover that later. ILLP is the Instructional Leadership Licensed Professional. If you're in a principal leadership program, when you graduate from here, you will apply for an ILLB, which is an Instructional Leadership License Beginning. And then you will go through a professional growth phase. You'll submit through the 10 Compass portal your professional growth, and then you'll be upgraded to the ILLP license. Yep. Your mentor can have the B or the P. They can't have the A. Now, what an A is the apprentice license, which are you in? Oh, which like, right. So you can't be someone's mentor. So, okay. Or like Dr. Renison at Howard, she's got her ILLA. As soon as she finishes this program, she'll have her ILLB. So right now, Dr. Renison can't be a mentor because she has a mentor. Okay? Module 3 assignments. Your Module 3 assignment is going to be an online simulation. It's called eTips. What I want you to do is nothing between now and September 21. Don't even think about it. Between September 21 and October, whatever, when this is due, like October 20th or something, October 19th, you will complete a simulation. You'll be going online. You'll be reading through data for a fictitious school district called Stromberg. You'll log in. It shows you how to log in and everything. Honestly, I encourage you to do nothing with this until September 21st. I'll explain all of those directions then. So, and if we have time today, we'll briefly talk about the decision-making model that you will be using. One thing I do want to point out is that that assignment is worth 42 points. It has its own rubric, so keep that in mind. All right, Module 4. Again, I don't need to go through anything but the assignment. For the Module 4 assignment, you'll be completing a leadership and communication assessment, which you can download here. The assessment is based on the work of the NASSP. You'll complete the assessment for yourself, and you will ask 5 colleagues to complete it as it relates to you. Select people who you think would provide an honest assessment of your skills and abilities. You can select your mentor, but you aren't required to. You might want to select people such as department heads, coaches, assistant principals, managers, or highly respected leaders in your school or organization. Once you have completed the assessment and you have had 5 people complete it, then you fill out the leadership and communication reflection, which is 2 to 4 pages, and you upload it here. And by then you'll upload it to your portfolio as well. So, okay, let's go through this assessment. If I click on it, it should appear. And I will open it, and here you have it. This is based on work from the National Association of Secondary School Principals, their 21st Century Leadership Skills. I list several different skills under different headings. So for example, under setting direction, here's what setting direction is. Here are 9 indicators of setting direction. You will rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5 in each of these. Judgment, 7 indicators. Results orientation, 5 indicators. Oral communication, 7 indicators. Written communication, 4 indicators. You will rate yourself on each one of those. This must be the daughter you don't like as much, I'm guessing, Jennifer. I'm just going to go out on that limb. Of course, I'm kidding. Which one was that, Jennifer?
That's Georgia, the 5-year-old.
Georgia, all right, okay. She's lovely. I'm going to mute you now, and probably for the rest of the day. Goodbye. Okay. All right. So notice I said you will fill this out for yourself, and then you're going to ask 5 colleagues who you trust to fill this out based on you, on their perceptions of you. Now, you want them to be honest and open. Remember, you're starting a program, you're not finishing it. Going back to, once you've done that, you're going to collect their data and put it all together in a sheet that looks like this. So here are each of those skill areas that I talked about. First, you'll put your average for each of those indicators. So there were 9 indicators here. What's your average of those 9? There were 7 here, 5, 4, 4, whatever. Then of your observers. So people who you gave this to, they rated you. You average their scores and put their average here. Then I want you to put the plus or minus difference. So for example, under judgment, your average for yourself might have been a 4 on a 5-point scale. Other people, when you average those 5 people's scores, that might have been a 2.5. That means that you've got a minus 1.5 between you and them. They rated you 1.5 lower than you rated you, okay? Below then is your opportunity for reflection. Answer these questions. In which skill dimensions do others see you as performing better than you see yourself? In which ones do you see yourself performing better than your observers perceive you? And for differences of greater than 1, compare your self-ratings to each behavior indicator with an average rating of the observer on the same indicator to determine which behaviors you might seek to develop and what is one activity you could hopefully improve on, or hopefully you could do as a field experience to improve on over the next 2 years. So what does that mean? It means that, let's just say hypothetically, when it comes to judgment, you rated yourself a 4, the average of everyone else was 2.5. What I want you to do then is to go back to this sheet and look at which indicators did other people rate you lower than you rated yourself. But be as specific as you can here. So, for example, under judgment, maybe you continually rated yourself high on establishing relationships between issues and events. Maybe other people rated you low. So then the question becomes, what can you do about that over the course of the next 2 years? What field experience activities would be good for you to participate in? Does that make sense? It's kind of a pre-program self-reflection, but not just of yourself. So before you start the program, what do you see as your leadership strengths and communication strengths? How do others perceive you? Where are there differences, gaps? And now that you know that, and you've got 2 years to work on it, what are you going to do about it? So that in 2 years, when you're ready to end the program, you can say to me, remember back in August when I found out that when it came to judgment, I felt this and other people felt that. Over the next 2 years, I participated in this, this, and this to help me personally improve in the area of judgment. Does that make sense? Because when you get to your capstone class, guess which indicators we come back to? The NASSP 21st Century Skills Indicators. And you'll have to show your growth over the course of 2 years. So, clear as mud? I hope. I'm trying to think if I didn't include yet an example for you here. Could do that. I might do that. Anyway, so that one's due October 19th as well. So you've got a couple things due October 19th. Yes?
How soon do you make it available we can start working? Because I noticed that each week they have a certain date that they won't open until.
Really?
That's the other class.
Mine should be open now. They should be. Like if you click on this assignment, if I click edit, it should show when it's due, but it should be, yeah. It's due on the 19th, but it's available the whole course. Yep. I try to make everything available the whole course. Yep. And part of that is because I realize that you might be going on vacation here or there, or, you know, family commitments or whatever. So you can get started on things whenever you want. Module 5. Module 5 is that group assignment, the group presentation, which will take place on November 2nd. The discussion board will only be for sharing presentations and communicating with your groups. The assignment, I already showed you the rubric, but just really quickly going through it. Each group will be assigned one key topic. You'll need to research and present to the rest of the class. Topics are already assigned, blah, blah, blah. Here's what your final product should include: a PowerPoint or similar. You can use Prezi, you can use whatever works. That includes key findings from research and current best practice. Needs to be no more than 30 minutes. Should include at least one handout for your classmates. It needs to be posted to that discussion board so everyone can access it. Needs to be grounded in research and best practice. Needs to address application at middle, elementary, and high school if appropriate. Needs to actively engage the rest of the students. Let me just spend a minute on that. You have not been actively engaged in this class for a while now. This has been lecture. When you do your presentation, don't do this. Some lecture's good. Usually different groups will have one person present one piece, one person present another piece, but then there needs to be some sort of group activity. It can be something that gets us moving, whatever you want to do, but it needs to be an instructional strategy that engages us somehow. We need to complete something, we need to do something physically so that we stay engaged. Then finally, that your presentation is cohesive, well-designed, and meets the time requirements. I already gave you the topics. I already showed you the rubric. I already explained to you the if someone doesn't participate fully kind of a thing. So are there any questions on that one? We're good at home too, looks like. All right. All right, then finally, your Module 6 assignment. Your Module 6 assignment is One that was done by a former student, Jen Ansel. She's an assistant principal at the Chattanooga School for Excellence here in Chattanooga. She did a nice handout and a PowerPoint for me for a class on Michael Fullen's The New Meaning of Educational Change. Michael Fullen is one of the seminal authors when it comes to change and change in education, frankly. And she's an elementary principal. I want you to keep this in mind. Her handout is pretty elementary. It reminds me of like when my kids used to have to fill out sermon notes at church. So you watch it and you're just frankly going to fill in the blanks. And as you go through the I think there's 6 videos, it'll go through each of this on her handout. And you're like, well, Dr. Cameron, this seems pretty elementary or rudimentary or whatever. There's 5. And you'll see, for example, if I download one, it is a little elementary, I'm not going to lie. Jen is wonderful. She's an elementary principal. And you'll kind of hear that and see that when you start the slide.
The ultimate goal of this presentation
So, sorry.
is to inform how our educational systems have changed and
So,
how to
you get the
implement them
idea.
effectively, which will ultimately
Make it stop. Okay. And you basically fill out that handout and you work through each of those 5. This is something you can do anytime. You don't have to wait until the last module. Why do I have you do this? Well, one of our major topics is change for this course, if you haven't figured that out. And as we move throughout the program, we're going to focus on change. For many of you, you're going to have to take something called the SLA, or School Leadership Licensure Assessment, before you get the license. Many of the questions on the SLA, in particular the essay questions, require you to talk through a model or work through a model of change in education. I want to make sure you have access to a model for change in education now, so we use the Fullen model. There's multiple ones pointed out in your textbook. You could use one of those too. But one thing you'll hear me talk about throughout the program is I always want to give you tools in your toolbox, because when you start as a leader, there might be nothing for you to use. I want you to have something. So if you start and you notice that change needs to happen, I want you to have a model that you can follow for how to implement a change in your school without it crashing and burning. And I've chosen the Michael Fullen model. So that's why that is there. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is all of the requirements for the course. If you click on syllabus, not only can you access the syllabus, but it will show you the due dates for everything. Notice some are AM, some are PM. If they're AM, that means they're due by this class. So for example, your Module 5 assignment is a presentation. That's due by noon because you have class at 12:30 on that day and you're going to be presenting it. So.
Go back to Module 5. So there's no written assignment, it's just the presentation.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank
Yep. Any other questions on the assignments? Awesome. All right. It is, what time is it? 3:03. Perfect. Let's take another 15-minute break, shall we? And we'll come back and talk about ethical leadership at 3:15. We'll see you, Jennifer and Christy, then. I'm going to stop that. And, okay. I think I'm going to take things a little bit out of order. I just had a question and I thought, you know what, this might be advantageous for everyone. And that is something I wanted to show you on September 21, but it would probably be to your benefit to know now. So I'm going to share my screen again with those of you at home. And you can see this as well. You should now all be a member of the CHEP School Leadership Organization. Whereas if you log in to Canvas, which is UTC Learn, in the learning management software, if you click on your dashboard in Canvas, you should see somewhere an organization that looks like this, EDUC School Leadership. And if you click on there, you should see this organization. Just real quickly, let's take a look at the people in here. Hopefully, your name is on this list. If it's not on this list, it means that you're not in this organization, which means that I've made an error and I need you to email me. But if you are in this organization, a few things that you can read through this now if you want. Here's your program handbook. If I click on the program handbook, and again, know that I'll cover this September 21, but today I talked about there were 113 field experience options. In the back of the handbook, as we scroll down through here, you're going to get to, actually I didn't include them, that's funny. Probably because I put them somewhere else. That means I just took them out of here, which is funny. Probably here. Field experience activities and standard alignment. So here are those 113 different field experience. They're aligned to the Tennessee Instructional Leadership Standards, and each one of them is explained in great detail. So you can see what is required of them. So if you want to start looking through them, you can also see, by the way, that some of them are required. Required ones means that we'll do them in class. So you get an idea of which ones we'll be doing in classes too. So, but what I wanted to show you in this organization was the mentor handbook and all mentor forms. You will need to have, before you can complete any field experience, a mentor authorization. Your mentor needs to be someone who has the license for which you aspire, and they need to be authorized by UTC. You will have them fill out this form. You can fill out part of it, and they fill out part of it. This is information on your mentor. So their information, their title, their school, their address, what college they went to. This is particularly important, what licenses they have and when they expire. Then they need to sign it. If they're not your principal needs to sign it. You need to sign it and then submit it to me via email, and you'll also put it in your electronic portfolio, which is where it will be stored after I sign it. I cannot stress to you enough how important it is in choosing your mentor that you get someone who you think will be willing to help you grow as a leader. Someone who you think will be aspiring, who will be inspiring, someone who you think will be patient, and someone who you think will give you opportunities, but also help you to grow as a leader. Because sometimes there are great leaders or great principals, but they want to do everything themselves and not share stuff. Don't pick that person, because you want opportunities for growth. I also can't stress enough how important it is that they have the license. If you're going to get your ILLB, that they have to have it. Last year was the first year that I got audited here at UTC. This last summer we got audited, and everyone who graduated a year ago, the state of Tennessee sent me a list and said, we need to know the names and their Tennessee, whatever personnel file numbers, whatever it is in the Tennessee system, license system, for every one of these mentors. It's the first time I've gotten audited, and I freaked out, of course. But I was able to go through everyone's portfolio, pull up all of their mentor authorization forms, get all of those file numbers, and every single person had a mentor who was approved and who was in the state of Tennessee system. I was worried that someone would try and sneak someone in or something like that, and no one did, and I didn't miss anything either. So, but let this just be incredibly fair warning. Make so doubly sure that they have, if you're getting the principal's license, that they already have it, an ILLB or an ILLP in the state of Tennessee. If you're getting the teacher leadership degree, they need to have a teaching license. You should pick someone who you think would be good at helping nurture you as a leader. A lot of times it can still be a principal. So keep that in mind.
Can we look that up? I'm on the Tennessee Department of Education site on the.
You don't need to because they fill it out.
I was just looking to see if my person had what license she had
Uh-huh.
instead of texting her and asking her, but I don't see at all.
Who is it?
Renee Lynn.
I don't know.
And I don't have a principal, so I'm in a program. So I don't know if she has.
I don't either, but she probably does. And I'm sure there is a way to look it up. What I did discover this summer when we were audited was that there were at least 3 times where people's name wasn't their official name in the system. It was either a maiden name or, you know, their name was Zachary whatever, but they went by Kip or what, you know what I mean? Just things like that. Just, you know, so keep that in mind. So that's all I wanted to, I think you need to know about the organization now is that mentor authorization. Everything else in here we'll go through on September 21st. So you're welcome to look through there if you want, but you don't need to get too worked up about it. Because now we need to talk about leadership. All right. Because now I need to find where I am. Okay. My courses. I left my little thing in my office, but that's okay. I'll go grab it in a minute. All right, so what I wanted to talk about for, I would say no more than 15 to 20 minutes, and then a little, actually want you to do some things together as well. Look, I'll actually try and get you involved in a lesson, is not just leaderships, but the difference between being a leader and being an ethical leader with integrity. Most of you, when you talked about leadership, you talked about positive aspects of leadership. You talked about collaboratively leading groups. You talked about having a vision. You talked about encouraging, I heard the word encouraging others to reach a vision. None of you talked about negative leadership. None of you talked about militaristic leadership. None of you talked about hierarchical leadership. None of you talked about those types of leadership, which certainly exists also. When you think of leadership in education, and when you think of a leader, you often think of someone with charisma, but I hope you also think of someone who acts with integrity. When I want, although for most of you, one of the very last classes you'll have in the program is an ethics class. It's called Ethics, Advocacy, and Advanced School Leadership, School Law. You'll have that class. But I think it's important that we talk about ethics and integrity now, because throughout the program, you're going to be analyzing different aspects of leadership. You're going to be interviewing leaders, you're going to be observing, and you're going to be critiquing. And I want you to think about ethics and integrity as you do that. So let's talk about ethics and integrity. With a little luck today, we'll get through some actual discussions. We'll talk about ethical and legal behavior, a personal code of ethics, at least get you started on that. We might have a little fun with making some ethical decisions and developing your own code of ethics. Okay. So what are ethics and where do they come from? What are ethics? Where do they come from? Do you have ethics? Are you ethical? Well, how do you know? Right from wrong. Well, where do we get right from wrong? From our parents, okay? Some of us, right?
Not Jesus, because we can't use
Not Jesus, because you can't. But you know what? You're exactly wrong, though. I would argue that you're exactly wrong. I would argue that most of our ethics are rooted in, frankly, the Bible in this country, I would argue. When we think of ethical behavior, I would say that most of what pops into our mind probably comes from the Ten Commandments, honestly. So that's one, that is truthfully one, probably the most prominent, at least in the southern United States, probably the most prominent genesis of your ethics, I shouldn't say your, of ethics is rooted in religion. Your parents, religion, maybe laws, right? Where else do ethics come from? Anywhere? Social constructs, yep, just society and what's acceptable and what's not. What? Experiences, your lived experiences. And those change over time. I mean, frankly, there was a time in my life where I could not have brought an African-American woman home to mom and dad. Frankly, there was a time in this country where I couldn't marry an African-American woman. But over time, that's changed. What is ethical at one point might not be ethical at another. What's the difference between ethics and integrity? So ethics is a system of moral principles that we follow. What is integrity? Integrity is actually following them. So I may have a code of ethics, and I may say what's valuable and important to me, but there's a difference between having a code of ethics and knowing ethical principles and following them. So I might understand ethics. I might be even an ethical person, but if I don't have integrity, that means I'm not following the ethics to which I espouse. So what I want to encourage you as you move through the program, examine leadership not just from whether or not they understand ethical principles, but whether they adhere to those ethical principles and moral standards that they have as leaders. Because frankly, there are plenty leaders who don't act with integrity, right? I mean, can we all think of some politicians who might say this, that, and the other thing, but when it comes time to doing stuff, do something completely different? Can we all think of religious figures who will stand in the pulpit and say X, Y, and Z? Goodness gracious. I mean, I don't want to bash the Catholic Church or anything, but if you've watched anything in the Catholic Church in the past decade, you've seen how there have been people who have stood up in the pulpit and preached one thing, and then when it comes time to how they act, don't follow what they preach. So I have some scenarios. Hopefully we'll get to some today. But I like this quote by John Maxwell, who's authored several books. He says, "A leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way." So this is one definition of leadership that I really like. And I want to break it down. Knows the way, goes the way, shows the way. They understand, they go that direction, and they empower others to follow. So what do ethical leaders do? Well, of course, they maintain legal and ethical behavior. And secondly, they create a code of ethics. Ethical and legal behavior. So this basically means that we monitor and use an appropriate system of policies and procedures to protect the rights and confidentiality of all. Same thing with legal, but let's think of what systems we have in place that we need to follow in education to be an ethical leader. What do we need to follow? Sure. Yep. So there might be policy manuals. There might be staff handbooks. we should be following those. There's a nice hierarchy in the legal world that goes laws, statutes, for example, and laws, case law, which is Supreme Court law, which it's not like there's necessarily a law, it's just that the Supreme Court or some other court has supported it. So there's nowhere in a law that says, for example, let me think this through. There's no law, like I'm not going to open a book and say, that says you must educate students who are Amish, and you must provide transportation to Amish families or whatever in a public school district. But if you go back and look through case law and look through the case of Yoder v. Wisconsin, I think, the Supreme Court ruled that yes, you do have to provide busing for Amish children to get to their schools as well. So there's a difference between a law that says students must be in school 180 days a year, that's in the Tennessee law statute, and one that was the Supreme Court finding or another higher court finding. But laws are always the highest thing, and that goes all the way down through case law, through your policies, through your handbook, and then through procedures and through common practice. It goes all over, there's like a continuum. Common practice in many times is considered to be, if you end up in a court and someone's suing you that you did something wrong, if you can show that that's common practice, you're fine, if that's a common practice. If students eating lunch before 10:30 in the morning, if you can prove that that's common practice and someone's suing you for whatever, if you can prove that that's common practice, you're going to be fine. There's no law that says that anything about that probably, but it's common practice. So we don't need to get off on our law divergent, but I want you to understand that there's a hierarchy of different things that you follow. There's a code of ethics for most professions that exists as well. Something that usually your professional organizations are the ones that have your code of ethics. So what do we think is important for maintaining ethical and legal behavior? Concepts like integrity, justice, fairness. By the way, I will make this available to you. Just it's not right now, but I'll make it so you don't have to copy everything down.
Here already has pulled it on her phone. I'm following.
Really?
It is.
Oh, wow. Okay, good. I didn't even think I had made it public. Well, good. Good for you. All right, so let's talk about a personal code of ethics. Now, I'm going to ask you just briefly to talk about what values or beliefs you hold that you think are non-negotiable and about which you are non-compromising. That is, what do you value? I'm asking you to do this, and I point out in the beginning here, without a mission and vision for your organization. So I'm not saying look at your school district's vision and mission statement and then develop your own code of ethics. I'm saying this is your personal code of ethics. What I would like you to do right now is jot down up to 8. They can be 1 or 2 words each. Beliefs or values that you hold that are non-negotiable and that you would not compromise in. Questions? So examples might be fairness, integrity, respect. Up to 8. You've got, as long as it takes me to go to my office and get my clicker and get back. 60 seconds. All right. So let's hear a couple of 1 or 2 word ideas, values, or beliefs that you hold that are non-negotiable, these broad concepts. So for example, I jotted down a couple that I believe are non-negotiable. They are liberty, equity, notice I didn't say equality, I said equity, respect, and justice. I think those are important. Let's hear from some people at home. Make sure you're awake. Christy, how about if you share one? I can't unmute you. No, I can. How about if you share a couple with us?
I think I've used statements or phrases rather than single words. Cheating, would not cheat, especially would not cheat to harm another person's reputation. I think it's important that you treat other people with respect. And I'm not sure that I followed exactly what your expectations were for this list. But I also would not compromise my biblical standards of belief, especially for professional gain.
Okay. Actually, you just worked ahead. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
You're a step ahead of us, but that's all right. Jennifer, let's hear some of yours.
My list was faith, honesty, family first, respect, kindness, loyalty, and gratitude.
Faith, honesty, family?
Yes.
I heard some other ones too, but I jotted those down.
Oh. Respect, kindness, loyalty, and gratitude.
Gratitude. An attitude of gratitude. I like it. All right. How about here in the gallery? What do we got? Who would like to share? Yeah.
Just one or
Sierra.
or
A couple, whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
so I said accountability. I mean, some was already up here. So accountability, fairness, trustworthiness, respect, honesty, and for me, the biggest one is just transparency. Being able to be transparent with your students, and sometimes, like, it's okay that you're wrong sometimes, and I try to tell myself it's okay to be wrong sometimes, and I want to try to show my students that, hey, I make mistakes too. So just that transparency to kind of tie in that trustworthiness and say, hey, I can come to you and be okay being uncomfortable.
Yep. I want you to, I agree with you 100%, and I love them. I want you to get away from with my students and start thinking of it in terms of as a leader. Okay. So what do you want from a leader? Not, you know what I mean? Like kind of what I talked about earlier. Get out of that teacher mindset and now start thinking, you know what? I'm leading adults now. And I would argue that transparency is just as important. Okay. So. Yeah, absolutely. All the principles work. I just want us to start getting into that leader mindset. Anyone else have something they'd like to share? Yes. I need to, wait a minute, because I need to make sure I know it. Sandra? Yeah. Yes, Sandra. So I want to know everyone's name. I want to make sure I get it before we're done here.
The ones that haven't already been said are compassion, love, service to others, and generosity.
Compassion, love, service. I love seeing service. Awesome. Anything else? Yeah, go ahead, Amanda.
Honesty, responsibility, dependability are really important.
Dependability. Nice.
There's the word.
Yeah. Anything else?
Humility.
Humility.
I put similar things to like different wording, but their communication. And approachability. Like I want my staff.
Got it. Perseverance. I love it.
I put inclusion on mine. So I don't like when leaders leave people out, accidentally or otherwise.
Right. No, I hear you. I don't care. We're not going to bother with yours, but everyone else is. See what I did there? Yeah. Morals? Your moral compass. Gotcha. All right. So now my question to you is, why did we choose these and who influenced us to select those? Why is it that that Kiara thinks that transparency is important? Yep.
Well, I guess for me, transparency is important because, who influenced me are my parents, because a lot of times the biggest thing people say is you can't be friends with your parents, but I know the way that my parents raised me, I knew my boundary, but at the same time, they were honest with me and I can be honest with them. And I know no matter what, I can go to them for whatever, no matter good or bad. And I want to be, as a leader, I want to be able to be that person that you can be transparent to. And even though you may be scared of what the results may be, good or bad, you can still say, hey, I can come to you for what's going on.
Right. But that was modeled to you through your parents.
Yes.
Great. Where did we get some of our other ideas? What did you said? Inclusion? Mm-hmm. Why did we say inclusion? I think I know why, but.
Well, I mean, for thinking as a leader, I've had principals, not names, but that had favorites. And that they always went to them, but from a teacher standpoint, because everyone's capable of something.
Right. So you saw that as a negative example, maybe, and that's why it came up to you?
I was looking at most of mine are from
negative examples. Okay.
I want a leader to be
Yep.
based on what shortcomings I've seen.
Yep. Well, you can learn an awful lot, not from just people who you want to emulate, but from people who you don't want to emulate. There's nothing wrong with that. What were some other ones and where did we get them?
I would say your morals comes from, once again, your parents, but also I look up to my pastor at church.
Yep.
So that's important.
Yep. And Christy mentioned her biblical principles. I'm guessing those are probably going to come from the Bible, right? Okay. So now what I would like you to do is take what you just jotted down from that ethics exercise And I would like you now to develop a statement of how those beliefs or values will guide you in making decisions. No, one of the modules for this course is all about decision making. So I want you to take what you wrote and in, I would say, 2 or 3 statements now, say how those beliefs or values will guide you in making a decision. So for example, I used respect, and I said that I will treat others the way I want to be treated all day, every day. I will always do that. Or when it comes to fairness, I will treat people as individuals and I will not make assumptions. So now take those words that you had and for at least 2 or 3, a statement of how they will guide you in making decisions. I'll give you a couple minutes to do that. Ready, go. Anyone? And don't just tell me what we're going to do about it. Tell me how your code of ethics is going to guide you. Those sentences that you just wrote down that are all pretty and everything, I'm talking sarcasm right now. You know, those really nice flourished sentences about how this, respect that, and all that. But now this is right where the rubber's hitting the road. Because it always is, by the way. When you have to make an ethical decision, they're never going to be easy and they're always going to be convoluted. You're going to, things like, here was a decision I had once. I had 2 people who were the finalists for an art teacher job. One was a 1st grade teacher's daughter, Cindy Poyer's daughter. Second one was the school board president's wife. I can't even make this stuff up. Those were my last 2 finalists after interviewing for an art teacher job. We went with the best teacher for the students by far, which was the school board president's wife, Mary Ann Gumness. She's still teaching there. Wonderful lady, great teacher. The 1st grade teacher, though, she didn't talk to me for a year. 1 full year, she didn't talk to me. However, she just retired this year, and she sent me a nice note saying that, you know what, that was the best thing for her daughter, who then got a job in this different school district, loved it, met her husband there, blah, 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 and it was all great. But I tell you what, when you're making those decisions, someone's going to hate you almost every time. So who do you want to hate you in this one? Your principal or Jesus? I don't know. Jesus? Is Jesus going to hate you? I'm thinking, Kayla, it's going to be Jesus? I don't know. What?
I said the principal's gonna have to hate me because fairness is fairness.
Fairness is fairness?
That's right. That's just me.
Okay.
You have to be fair. And then within a situation like that, I look at the outside situation of what's going on. And if the child is not wanting to come have interest in school, I will probably try to seek counseling for that child. Because it's not about school no more, it's about what's going on at home.
Okay. That's probably why the child's not coming. But Kayla, did you have something?
So I feel like one of my, what I seek first to understand and then to be understood. And so then by listening to, you know, in that role, at that moment, she is the parent. She is not in the role as the principal, even though it kind of gets a little cloudy.
Right.
So then trying to, you know, talk to her as the parent, you know, as well as in communicating open and honestly with them. But I think, you know, with the whole see first to understand, I would then offer, knowing what the situation was, offer more, you know, time to, you know, meet with them after school or whatever it would be, because, you know, it wouldn't be, okay, sorry, you just didn't come. Because of this situation, I will do this. And then that, in turn, could, you know, bring the grade up, not just because you're the principal. Right, like solving the problem, not just like masking it. Right.
And then who's to say she won't do it again? Right. And again.
Especially if you don't.
Right. That's, you know, sorry. That's that's the very first rule, by the way, I learned as a principal. I learned it from my superintendent, who was the principal before I was the principal. He moved from principal to superintendent. And he said to me, Barry, no good deed goes unpunished. And that's exactly what he meant, was as soon as you do something that you think is really nice for one person,
It will bite you in the butt, and you're going to wish you hadn't done that at some point in time. Vanessa, did you have something you wanted to say?
I was just thinking that if you did do the grade, change the grade, then if that person's your boss, then she's not going to respect you. She's going to say, well, is that the real grade, or did she bump that person's grade? I mean, there's no trust in that situation at that point, even though it got her what she wanted at that point. As your boss, she's not going to want you to do that. So
You would
She's
think
in a
that
parent
is your boss.
mindset at the point.
But after that moment, then she's back to being your boss.
Yeah.
By the way, it doesn't matter how professional they are. When they're a parent, they're mama bear.
Right.
Every time. Every time. Every parent's a mama bear. I've never met one who wasn't. I'm not even playing.
Too, like being transparent with them. Our parents are really involved, and when you're transparent with them and you're saying this isn't going to help your child any by changing their grade, and then going into your grades and saying this is where we need to work and this is what I can do as far as grades to move it from a D to a C, because it's not like she's asking you to move it from a D to an A, this like crazy jump. Like if she wants you to move it from a D to a C, then let her know how you're going to move it from a D to a C with him doing the work and the child and the parent and you working as a cohesive team.
Yep. When you do your reading for this module, you're going to come across a term called satisficing. Because about 3 or 4 of you have commented on something that I would consider to be satisficing, which is the difference between satisfying what they want, but also then coming up with an alternative. Like I heard Morgan say, for example, well, we can't do this, but we could do that X, Y, and Z, and how could we do this? So you're that model is called satisficing when it comes to decision making. So we could spend the rest of the day on this and be fun and be fine and spend a lot of time. The way I solved it was I just wanted to know, well, what's in it for me, and is there a Mrs. Gump? Is there a Mr. Gump, Mrs. Gump? Of course, I'm kidding, because if I did that, I know Jesus would be watching, Vanessa, and then it would be, oh. Meanwhile, Jennifer's child is at home going, why is your teacher talking about Jesus watching, Mommy? Oh, because Jesus is always watching, that's why, sorry. Okay. For the rest of the time today, I promised at the beginning of our session that I would give your groups time to work together. This is your opportunity as a group to determine how you would like to tackle the problem. For the last group, if you want to tackle the topic that you were given, or if you wanted to choose a different topic. I will stay here today until the last person stays here. So whenever your group is done, you're free to leave. You can decide, by the way, to work using the discussion board online. You can use a Google Doc. You can use whatever method works for you. It doesn't matter to me. I won't be tracking it as long as you're ready on November 2nd. Now, for the rest of the class period, though, I do need to break you into groups, and some of the groups can stay in here, but some cannot. So for the building capacity, the last group with Christy, Adara, John, Morgan, and Audrey, I'm going to ask you guys to go, I'm not sure if it's 403, right next door. Does one of you have a laptop that you could click on the Zoom link and Christy could join you? Did I see someone? Audrey, did you say you can? Okay. Could you, when you get in the room, could you click on the Zoom link and join? I'm going to mute everybody in here, but that way, actually, you know what? That's not going to work, because then you guys would have to be in the same group. I'm going to create 2 groups online. Don't worry about me. I apologize. Breakout rooms. I'm going to break you into 2 rooms automatically. And Christy, you'll be in one room. Jennifer, you'll be in another room. And when Audrey joins, actually, I'll wait until Audrey joins. And I will put Audrey in a room with Christy. And with Jennifer, does Josie, Mark, or Dana have a laptop they could use? Josie? Okay. You can go in there, I think it's 409, kind of kitty corner across the hall. Once you log in, I'll put you guys in a group with Jennifer. Everyone else can meet in their groups in this room, but empowering others across the hall, building capacity, the room next door, and leading generations and a diverse environment can stay in here and just be at your tables. All right?
Ready, break. Okay. And at home, Jennifer and Christy, as soon as people log in, I'll create what are called breakout rooms, and I'll manually put Jennifer in a room with Josie and Christy in a room with Audrey, I think it was. So.
Trying to figure out for a while. Generations and their qualities. Would have